Saturday. You are listening to Fan University on 105.3 The Fan. I am your host, Brennan Baxter, and we are with you from 9 to noon to give you everything you need to know about college football. We've got a great show lined up. Shahan Jayaraja from CBS Sports will be joining us at 9:20. We're sitting down with Joey McGuire, Texas Tech head coach, at 9:40. I've got Jacob Ray behind the keys there, making sure this show goes smooth. And I am joined by my co-host, Jake Riepma from Provo, Utah. Jake was at the BYU West Virginia game last night. Boots on the ground. Jake, how we doing out there, man?
Hey, how about it? Good morning, DFW. Good morning, Jacob Ray. We've got Carter Freeman joining us a little bit later after the 5K he just ran. What a busy morning for Fan University and fellas and everybody and Tolos. I mean, if you're watching on the fan cam, which by the way you should, you will see my beautiful backdrop. It's not a postcard, my friends, although it's a little bit foggy this morning, some storms rolled in, but I will tell you this, Provo, Utah, Lavelle Edwards Stadium, just this entire area, Park City, and so on and so forth, is as good as advertised and maybe even a little bit better. I cannot overhype it enough. You got to put it on your college football bucket list. And BYU, I mean, all of a sudden, we got a team in the Big 12 here, BYU, Brennan Baxter, undefeated, some firepower on offense. I saw it firsthand last night. And a quarterback by the name of Bear Bachmeier threw for a career high in the Big 12 since BYU joined the Big 12 last night. And he's got some weapons, and call me prisoner of the moment, but I was impressed with that BYU team last night, seeing them firsthand. And oh, by the way, the scenery, the atmosphere, the excitement, again, put it on your college football bucket list. But that's where I want to start, Brennan Baxter, 877-881-1053. I know we got a ton of Tolos tuning in that have been to some pretty exceptional college football venues and would love to get the chatter going early this morning about some of the best college football venues that you've been. Of course, I know where you're at with the ties to Lubbock, and we'll talk with Joey McGuire later today, which was just an awesome interview, but I couldn't be more fired up to be with you this morning on Fan University right here on 105.3 The Fan.
Yeah, man, it's hard. Usually you're the prettiest face here in the studio, but today it might be your background that's the prettiest thing on the screen. I don't know, but you're absolutely right. BYU coming off of losing Jake Retzlaff to some disciplinary reasons. They're coming out 5-0 with a freshman quarterback with one of the coolest names in the sport. It's a huge opportunity for them. They've got some tough games coming up. They have Utah and Iowa State. Then they go to Lubbock on 3 of their next 4 games. So it's going to be interesting to see if BYU keeps up. I'm sure we'll talk to Shahan about that. But yeah, one of the most beautiful stadiums in America. If you have a chance to get out there, they've got the BYU on the mountain over there, Jake, on top with night game there in Provo. The people are just awesome. It's a ton of fun. One of the best environments, not only in the Big 12, but in the country. And yeah, they're I would say, and I can't wait to ask Shahan this here in a little bit, but probably one of the biggest surprises in the Big 12 so far this year. Wouldn't you say, Jake?
No, I would agree, because you mentioned with the unexpected turn of Retzlaff no longer being under center, but that was one thing that stood out to me last night. I'm watching some of these receivers, and I mean the big chunk plays that BYU had. Chase Roberts was really good. Parker Kingston, some weapons for Bear Bachmeier to get the football to, and they're very multi-dimensional on offense. I think they've done a great job of establishing the run as a team that can run the ball, and Kalani Sitake's done a great job on the offensive side, establishing the passing game as well. And now, granted, listen, I've watched my fair share of West Virginia football, and this is no disrespect to West Virginia, and I've got my Mountaineers hat on, which, by the way, a shout out to some of the West Virginia boosters that hooked me up meeting Tavon Austin last night, which was pretty neat. All part of the experience. Anytime you get to meet former NFL players, pretty neat, especially one that has arguably the greatest highlight tape of all time. But I know we're talking BYU football, but I would chalk them up as a legitimate contender to be in consideration for that Big 12 championship when the dust settles settles here later on.
Yeah, we'll learn a lot about them here, like I said, in the next couple of weeks. And yeah, make sure you're texting in 877-881-1053 on the Frankel and Frankel Injury Attorney Hotline text. We're going to be responding to you guys throughout the day. Jake, there's some other big games going on. Texas is back in action at Florida. How does Arch Manning look against real competition here? Coming off of what was a decent showing against Sam Houston State and UTEP, but big storyline for Arch Manning there. You've got Alabama and Vanderbilt. We're going to talk to Robbie from Vandy.com at 10:20 today, learning more about the Commodores and their matchup going into Tuscaloosa, where game day currently is. Texas Tech on the road against Houston. We talked to Joey McGuire about that. That's at 9:40. Tons of exciting games, exciting matchups today for the college football slate. I can't believe we're already in October. Conference play is underway. The season's flying by. This is time for teams to make a statement early in the fall. Jake, if I had to kind of ask you, if you had one team that you think is going to surprise people from the Big 12 in the month of October, and you can't say BYU because we just talked about them, who do you think it would be?
No, that's a great question. And I was having this discussion with some BYU and West Virginia fans last night about the Big 12 in general just being so wide open. And even a team like Utah that suffered the early loss to Texas Tech, I don't think you can count them out. Iowa State is another team that is, that made their way to the Big 12 championship last year, came up a little bit short. And oh, by the way, Arizona State is winning close games. They had the one setback in Stark Vegas that was in a non-conference game against Mississippi State. So they're every bit a part of the conversation as well. And, there's something about to be the best, you got to beat the best, and obviously Arizona State holds that title right now as the defending champions. And like I said on our very first show, Brennan Baxter, sitting next to you at Nebraska Furniture Mart, I said, whatever Kenny Dillingham is selling, I'm buying that, and I still feel that way. And even though the Sun Devils have had to kind of eke out some close wins early, and the gauntlet that they have coming up, and everybody really has in the Big 12 because of the level of parity, I still like Arizona State, and even Iowa State making some noise as well. There's so many teams that are just, we're going to continue to find out what this conference is made of as the weeks continue to progress. Like you said, already in October, but just nationally, I heard a lot of chatter about this week being a little bit vanilla on the schedule, maybe not as many big matchups, and with Florida State and Miami being one of the headliners, that lost a little bit of the steam because of Florida State's loss against Virginia the week prior on a Friday night. But man, it still feels like a roll up the sleeves kind of college football Saturday, take it all in. Vandy and Alabama, as you mentioned, in the SEC. But let me stick to the question as I go on and on a little bit here. But let me tell you, the Arizona State Sun Devils still, have my attention being the defending champions, and I don't think you can count out Utah either. And I know you said I can't say BYU, but I am a big proponent of recency bias, and I just saw the Cougars light up the scoreboard on offense. And oh, by the way, in an electric atmosphere. I don't think teams are going to Provo to win. No,
Provo's going to be difficult. Arizona State, I'm okay on Arizona State. I'm not thoroughly impressed with Sam Levitt yet. It's really just him and Tyson, their receiver, and that's pretty much it. One team that I'm keeping an eye out today is Cincinnati. They have Iowa State at home at 11 a.m. Brendan Sorsby's been slinging it for them. Scott Satterfield, who I think is one of the most, I think he's not very appreciated as head coaches when it comes to the Big 12 Conference, but they have a chance to make a statement and say, hey, we're here to surprise some people as well, too. Iowa State on the road with Rocco Beck's always going to be interesting, but you mentioned it. Switching out of the Big 12 for a second, Miami, Florida State, man. I mean, after Florida State loses last week to Virginia, this is a chance for them to kind of shake up that conference. Where does the ACC go from here if Florida State wins? Miami's not maybe what people thought they would be if Florida State's able to knock them off, though they look amazing so far. I think Miami completely justified in being in the top 4 in the country right now. Carson Beck's playing really well off of his shoulder surgery, the transfer from Georgia, but there's a lot of questions that can be answered today for some teams having opportunity. And then Houston, in this Texas Tech-Houston matchup, are they real in the Big 12? Are they going to be a sleeper? Tech's, I think, favored right now at a 10.5, and Texas Tech coming off a bye week with a huge win against Utah. Going to be a ton of fun, and we're going to be here with you until noon to take you through all of the previews and action. Jake, got to ask too, man, with where West Virginia's at with Rich Rodriguez, just curious, do you feel like this is a one and done year for him, or do you feel like they're going to give him a 2-10, 3-9 season? Because it looks like that's where it's headed.
Yeah, it certainly does. And Rich Rod is very, very much a old school hard edge type of coach. I mean, that's their saying at West Virginia, hard edge. And there's going to be some growing pains. And I think he was pretty vocal about that when he took the job. But getting to know the West Virginia fan base in a more, going to a number of different games and knowing what makes them tick. The win over Pitt is going to buy Rich Rod some time, and that is enough to set the tone for this year. And I hate to, do the whole, oh, we beat our rival, so it's a successful season, but there is an element of truth to that. And even talking with some Mountaineer fans last night, they're on their third string quarterback, and it's kind of a bleak outlook for the rest of this year. But I think Rich Rod, with the win over Pitt, ensures that he'll be back next year. It's not a one and done. And, it's an uphill battle in the Big 12 because of everything we just talked about with the parity and everything. But there is, of course, a fan base is never going to be 100% on everything, but just beating the rival in Pitt provides a sense of hope and something to believe in for the Rich Rod era moving forward. But one other thing that I wanted to get your take on, Brennan, just from, you talked about Florida State and Miami with where does the ACC go from here. I want to see, and we're doing our opening kickoff here. I want to see Carson Beck continue to stack good games against quality opponents. And we have sang his praises, and nationally he has received a lot of praises, and rightfully so. He earned that with his play on the field. But this is another tough test. And it just, to be considered one of the best quarterbacks in all of college football, you have to be able to stack good games against good teams and consistently perform at a high level. And that Florida State defense is no joke.
Yeah, and it's interesting because the last two games Carson Beck has played very well. He only has less than 1,000 yards. He's at 972 passing yards, 7 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. So he's been efficient. He hasn't been otherworldly when it comes to leading Miami. They're really... They start in the trenches there, and so it's going to be interesting because Gus Malzahn and Florida State love to run the football. They've got some weird schemes that they do there with Tommy Castellano. So it's going to be really interesting to see, can Florida State move the ball against the Miami front four? Does Miami continue to protect Carson Beck? I mean, look, Notre Dame, I know they gave up 42 or 41 to A&M. They come in with a decent defense to start the year, and Carson Beck made it look fairly effective, dropping 27 on them, and that's a huge win. If Miami wins this game, dude, I mean, you're looking at a schedule. They've got at SMU November 1st, but versus Louisville, versus Stanford, versus Syracuse, versus North Carolina State. There's not a lot of losses on this schedule, so This is an opportunity for them to kind of stamp it, I think. But we mentioned the ACC. I had Clemson, to show you how smart I am, winning the national championship this year. They're off to a 1-3 start. So that's not great. They have North Carolina today. So the ACC is taking a back seat compared to what we might have thought it would have been. SMU's off to a 2-2 start. So this is a big game for, I think, Miami to win, because it will solidify them in that conference and make them feel like they are a top 3, potentially top 2 team in the country. And I would put them right there right now. So I'm excited to watch that game, man. It's at Florida State in Tallahassee. Going to be a lot of fun. But that's one of the key matchups. You're right. It lost some muster, I think, with them losing to Virginia, but still a top 20 game. Florida State having won against Alabama this year. I think there's still a lot of reason to be excited if you're a Seminole fan. It's just going to be interesting to see how those two teams match up more in the run game and the defensive line for Miami.
For sure. One other note, and as we wrap up our opening kickoff here, I would be remiss if I didn't mix in some Big Ten action. But we got the early game on the Fox Big Noon kickoff between Michigan and Wisconsin. And on Fan University, we are always on which coach should be on fire to watch? Hot seat, hotter seat, and hottest seat. And I think Luke Fickell has one of the hottest seats in the country. And if the Michigan Wolverines embarrass Wisconsin today, maybe we're talking about Luke Fickell as the next head coach to be relieved of his duties. But I will say what's interesting about this matchup, for as bad as Wisconsin has been, they are really good against the run. Defensively, they have a really good run defense. And what does the University of Michigan want to do? They want to pound the rock on the ground. And they've opened up the playbook a little bit more for freshman quarterback Bryce Underwood. But even in that win against Nebraska that Michigan had, it was big chunk plays in the ground game from Justice Haynes and big long runs that really opened up the offense. And I just don't see this Wisconsin defense allowing that. So even though, Michigan has had a loss and Wisconsin has been really utterly terrible and Luke Fickell's job is certainly in question, I think there's some interesting matchup components to keep your eye on this one in the early window there on Fox Big Noon Kickoff.
Yeah, I'm excited to watch Bryce Underwood again, man. I think this kid's legit. True freshman quarterback. I'm excited to see. I know that does make you happy, Jake. They're having to talk positively about a Michigan guy. But coming up around the corner, Shahan Jayaraja from CBS Sports is going to sit down, go through his biggest surprises and disappointments in the Big 12. You're listening to Fan University on 105.3 The Fan.
The more time you give, the more our crush grows. Together we continue to build something special. Keep turning it on and leaving it on 105.3 The Fan and the Odyssey, iHeartRadio, and TuneIn apps.
Sean and RJ here with the greatness of Underdog Fantasy. Download the Underdog app. Use the promo code TOLO because football season is in full swing. And Underdog is the best place to get in on all the action. You can make picks, win money right now in Texas, and it's super, super easy. You pick whether your favorite player will go higher or lower on stats like rush yards, receptions, touchdowns, and more. Get your picks right, and you could win up to 5.
They say in order to remember something, you have to forget something else. Okay, now that is a very cute haircut. That's like a little shag. I've never seen it before.
Well, I mean, of course you have. So Rachel.
Oh, is that your name?
No, I mean like your name.
No, I'm Jen. Your name's Jen.
Right, but I just mean like this is your haircut.
But that's the hair on your head.
I'm not saying this is your hair. Okay.
Three out of 10 patients were in endoscopic remission at 1 year, based on areas visualized on colonoscopy, which may not represent the deeper bowel layer or entire GI tract. Individual results may vary. Ask your doctor about Tremfya today. Call 1-800-526-7736 to learn more or visit tremfyaradio.com.
And it's back to the Fan University on 105.3 The Fan. This upcoming segment's brought to you by the Frankels. If you've been injured in a car or truck wreck, call Frankel first, 214-817-333-3333. With Frankel & Frankel, there is never an out-of-pocket cost. They only get paid when you win. Frankel & Frankel, the go-to car and truck wreck attorneys in Dallas.
Buckmeyer run all the way. Bear looking like a grizzly. Give him 6.
Bear looking like a grizzly. What a call there from the West Virginia BYU game. BYU starting off 5-0 after a 38-24 win. Jake, we are now joined by Shahan Jayaraja here on Fan University 105.3 The Fan. Shahan from CBS Sports, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me.
Hey, man, good to talk with you again. It's been a couple months since I last saw you. Big 12 plays underway, I should say. It's been a really interesting start to the Big 12 Conference this season. I wanted to ask you just right off the bat, who do you think has been the biggest surprise in the Big 12, and who has been your biggest disappointment so far through the first couple games of the conference play?
I mean, it's hard to say anyone other than Kansas State for biggest disappointment. I mean, they have been absolutely miserable through the first couple of weeks. Losing to Army only is aging worse and worse, as Army really hasn't been competitive against other FBS teams. And frankly, they shouldn't have won the one game that they did win against an FCS opponent. So it's been a brutal run. Now, hopefully that win last week against UCF, maybe that ends up being a turning point for this team. But they have just been really disappointing, kind of the Oklahoma State of this year. In terms of pleasant surprise, I mean, I'll take you to the other side of that opening season game, and Iowa State has been more dominant than I expected. I thought that they could be maybe on the outside of the Big 12 conversation. Well, I think they're right at the forefront along with Texas Tech, and they've been just a complete football team. Defensively, they've made huge strides as they've gotten healthier. That was something that Matt Campbell said before the season, is they felt like some of their issues last year in the run game were just straight up that they had to deal with so many injuries. And offensively, they've run the ball more consistently. I think that Rocco Becht has been just about as good as any quarterback in the Big 12. They look like a team that can absolutely contend to go back to Arlington for the second straight year.
Shahan, thanks so much for being on Fan University with us this morning. And admittedly, I can be a reactionary prisoner of the moment, a self-proclaimed, which is not always the best thing to be in this business. But I was at the BYU game last night, and number one, Lavelle Edwards Stadium, just incredible. But number two, I'm starting to kind of believe in BYU as a legitimate contender. And I know it was lowly West Virginia, no disrespect, but their offensive prowess was on full display last night. And they seem like a team that, number one, has a ton of weapons, but number two, could really make some noise in this Big 12 race that could be wide open. What's your thought on the BYU Cougars? And am I being a prisoner of the moment with their big blowout win last night?
Well, I'll say this. I said over the offseason that if Jake Retzlaff was back at BYU, they might have been my pick to win the Big 12. And the reason that I kind of moved off them wasn't because I thought that Jake was so incredible, but it's just because they put so much on that quarterback position with the way that they run their offense. And I think that through the first couple of games, Bear Bachmeier, the true freshman, has really been a fantastic player for them. Last night was kind of his breakout game as a passer, over 350 yards. Now, yeah, like you said, West Virginia is very bad. And frankly, the first couple of teams that they've played this year have all been pretty miserable. I don't think we're going to know necessarily what the ceiling of this team is until they go and play Utah on October 18th. But I mean, here's the thing that you do say is that they've handled all the business the way that they're supposed to. They have one of the easiest schedules in the Big 12, if not the outright easiest in the Big 12. And I think that that's going to give them a chance to be in Arlington. I'll tell you what, too. I've scheduled to go to that Texas Tech BYU game on November 8th because I think that might be a preview potentially of the Big 12 title game. And I think that as long as this defense keeps playing at the level that we've seen, they're going to have a chance.
Shahan, don't get me excited, man, about Texas Tech in Arlington already. We got a long way to go. I'll also be at that game, so we can catch up that weekend as well. Let's transition to Texas Tech. You obviously wrote a great piece about them over the summer. We were able to sit down and talk with you on a Texas Tech podcast, and just you've been around this university, this team, covering them nationally, and now they've kind of entered the national spotlight officially. Are they the clear-cut favorite to win the conference in your mind? And this probably doesn't come as a big a surprise to you as it is to maybe some other people in the national media seeing them have success.
Yeah, I mean, I think that they are clearly the favorite to win the conference. I think, again, it's two pieces of this, right? One, they are so dominant in the trenches, and that's going to give them a chance to pull away from every team except the very top contenders. Like the stat that I pointed to last year is that 6 of their 8 wins last year were one-score games. Well, the goal is this year to not be in 6 one-score games, period, because you pull away from the rest of the field and essentially, get to run out the clock. And this Houston game, I think, is going to be huge today to kind of figure out, okay, is this something that they're going to be able to do against pretty good teams? Because Houston is a good team. But I think that when you look ahead at their schedule, I mentioned that BYU game, that's going to be a big one. They go on the road to play Arizona State. Other than that, I mean, they should be 5+ point favorites in almost all of their remaining games. So I think that Texas Tech not only is the favorite to win the Big 12 right now, I don't want to go as far as saying that they've already kind of locked up a spot in Arlington in my mind, but they're really close. And I think that it is absolutely on the table, not just for them to win the Big 12 and make it to Arlington. Like, I think that a top 4 seed is in play if they finish the way that they've played so far this year. The other thing that you mentioned too, and this is a rarity when it comes to Big 12 teams, just frankly, is the advanced analytics kind of back up what we've seen so far. Texas Tech is rated top 5 in stuff like SP Plus and FPI and things like that. Like, usually we see Big 12 teams that play their way up. We don't see ones very consistently that are that level of dominant right from the start of the year. And the competition has been what it's been, but we saw them go on the road and have a great game against Utah. So I think they're in great shape, and I think that they are clearly the top contender from the Big 12.
Shahan, that's exactly where I wanted to go next. And you segued into it beautifully, where I mentioned in the first segment, Arizona State, they still can claim the reigning Big 12 champions. And I know they've eked out some really close games, but is it more in your mind Arizona State's kind of weathered the storm and it's a full speed ahead, or is it this is kind of a product of who they are? They're going to play a lot of close games, and you can only live dangerously so many times. And, Sam Levitt has kind of he's been impressive with his legs, but offensively they haven't really shown a ton of firepower. Jordan Tyson kind of their only weapon there. Are you as bullish on the Sun Devils, or is it as last year kind of in the distant rear view?
Well, there's two things that give me a little bit of pause. One is, like you talked about, they haven't necessarily had those supporting pieces show up in the receiving game. Jordan Tyson, by the way, is incredible. I mean, he should be an All-American this year. But once you get past him, it's been a little more inconsistent. Now, I think that the emergence of Raleek Brown at running back has been a big deal for them. But I mean, again, these last two games, like you mentioned, they kick a game-winning field goal against Baylor. They kick a game-winning field goal against TCU. Here's the issue when it comes to Arizona State. I talked about BYU and Texas Tech with their easy schedules. Well, listen to this road ahead, right? They just played Baylor and TCU, who are two teams that are Big 12 contenders. Then they play at Utah versus Texas Tech versus Houston at Iowa State. That's probably the toughest stretch of any team in the Big 12 in the middle of the season. So I think that more likely than not, they're going to be in a lot of close games. And unfortunately, again, over these next 3 or 4 weeks, they're going to play a lot of teams who can pick up victories against them. I mean, they played 3 games in October, and at Utah versus Texas Tech versus Houston. That's as tough a stretch as anybody in this conference. So that's the thing that concerns me probably more than anything, is there are teams ahead that I think can really take advantage of some of these deficiencies. And that's why for me it was always going to be tough sledding to be a repeat Big 12 contender, just because their schedule is so much harder than almost everybody else's. So I think that certainly when you've got a player like Jordan Tyson, when you got a quarterback like Sam Levitt who's finally starting to round into form, and a defense that's playing well, it's going to give you a chance. But I just don't see this team as being in that top group anymore.
Shahan Jayaraja from CBS Sports joining Fan University here on 105.3 The Fan. Shahan, I want to close with a Baylor question. Baylor grad alum, you're around the program. Thoughts on Baylor so far this season? Would you kind of put them in one of those biggest disappointment tiers, or maybe a question mark? We're still not there yet. Sawyer Robertson's been one of the best quarterbacks, not only in the conference, but in the country. Are you out on Baylor yet in this conference, or do you still have some hope for the Baylor Bears?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that they've been a little bit of a disappointment. I certainly don't think that they've been one of the most disappointing teams. I mean, again, you look at their losses. They were in a fourth quarter game against Auburn that they came back in. They lose on a field goal against Arizona State at home. So I think that we're still very much in wait-and-see mode on them. I said heading into the year, there's a chance that Baylor could be the Big 12 favorites coming out of Week 5 if they go 5-0 to start. Well, obviously it's been 3-2 and a lot of close games along the way. But, the other thing, too, is that I think that, you look at this week, this is an opportunity to maybe get some stuff right against the Kansas State team that's struggling. Then you go to TCU after a bye. I think that that's going to be a defining game of the season. I think that whoever wins that game probably comes out as the borderline contender in the Big 12, and the other one is probably out. So, look, I mean, last year this team won 8 games. I think that, they're still very much in position to be in that 8-9 win conversation, but they're definitely half a step short of what people maybe expected coming into the year.
Awesome, man. Well, Shahan, thank you so much for taking time to join Fan University. Where can people find you, man? Where do you want people to check you out?
Yeah, you can follow me on all social media at Shahan Jayaraja. Find all my work at cbssports.com, and you can listen to our podcast, The College Football Insiders, wherever you get your podcasts.
Awesome, man. Well, hey, maybe I'll see you in Lubbock here November 8th in a month for BYU Texas Tech. Have a great weekend. Enjoy watching some ball.
Looking forward to it. Thanks so much for having me.
And Shahan Jayaraja, if you have not gone to CBS Sports and seen some of his pieces, he does great work. He wrote a fantastic article on Texas Tech bringing in so much money, Jake, into the program, and it was huge. He became a celebrity in West Texas. It was kind of crazy just how well that was received, and he just covers football so great. Tons of fun getting to talk to him.
For sure. My favorite Shahan clip I saw was I can't remember what social media platform he posted on. I meant to ask him about it. We just got talking ball, and of course, my tiny little brain couldn't remember that. But his kid saw him on TV and was pointing at him at TV. That was just an awesome moment. I thought that was really really neat. But yeah, huge ups to Shahan for joining us on Fan University. Love getting his perspective on the Big 12 and beyond. But great stuff there, and a great get by you, Brennan Baxter.
Come on, man. Hey, before we go to break, Jake, Carter Freeman just walked in, getting off a 10K. This guy's sweating. He's running his car. Carter, welcome to the show, man.
What's up, guys? I'm sad I missed Shahan. Jake, I can't hear you. I don't have my headphones on, but I was listening coming in. Shahan was awesome, and excited for this Joey McGuire interview we got coming up.
Carter's drenched in sweat. He's got his October.
It's not that bad. Come on.
Oh, he looks.
You should have seen me when the race finished.
It looks fantastic, man. I can't believe what I'm looking at. He's out of breath. What a guy, Carter Freeman here. Back here with us the rest of the way. Jake, before we go to break, too, Flagtober kicks off today. So go get your one-of-a-kind Texas-themed G-Bag flag up until 11 a.m. this morning, Tolos. Brian Broaddus is at Tolbert Garage at 3916 Frontage Road in Mesquite, Texas. And then from noon to 2, Zach Wolchuk will be at East Dallas Diesel. Flagtober Tour is here. You can see him at 12150 Shiloh Road in Dallas. Not only flags, but awesome giveaways at each location. So Carter teased it, but coming up around the corner, we sit down with Texas Tech head coach Joey McGuire to talk some ball and the upcoming matchup against Houston. That is next on 105.3 The Fan.
Whatever you're facing, whatever you're struggling with, the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline can help. Trained counselors are available 24/7 to provide confidential support at no cost to you. If you or someone you know is having a mental health crisis, call or text 988. Or to chat, visit texas988.org. With 988, you're not alone in the Lone Star State.
The race is on. Classic Chevrolet and Grapevine. Back-to-back #1 Chevy dealer in the world. To win again, we're leading the pack with our biggest end-of-year savings now. Plus, we're paying top dollar for your current vehicle. The race is on. Don't miss a huge selection of new Chevys priced below market value. This is Texas. This is classic. Visit ClassicChevrolet.com. Together, let's drive. Based on new Chevrolet registrations 2023 and 2024.
Hi, it's Pete Thompson from the Consumer Team. Every year, the summer heat puts a real strain on your HVAC system, which means it needs a tune-up before it gets cold and you turn on the heat. Call the On-Time experts today and get their fall tune-up, normally $199 for just $59. Your system will get a thorough cleaning and maintenance, and you'll get a stay-warm guarantee for this winter, too. Book your appointment now at theontimeexperts.com. Theontimeexperts.com. The On-Time Experts, the official HVAC partner of the Dallas Cowboys.
Tolos. It's Flagtober time. Join the G-Bag Nation next Friday afternoon.
Got to forget something else to remember that Uber Eats has groceries.
No, that's absurd. Hey, remember when you used to be what was it, Pepper Lady? Pepper Lady?
Was it Cinnamon Sisters?
Asian Babes.
Saffron Squad?
Nutmeg Maidens?
Paprika?
No. I just said that. Was it Spice Girls?
Doesn't sound right.
Was it Saffron Squad?
for having me.
Of course. Well, you've got the big game coming up against Houston, 6 o'clock there. Coming off the bye week, a huge win against Utah. How important was it to have that bye in between the two road games, with the team being able to recover a little bit, and then just kind of being able to enjoy the win a little more and then reset for Houston?
Yeah, it was big. I think that the bye was pretty perfectly timed, because even though we just played 4 games, we spent a month in camp, so you're really talking about 2 months and then a bye. So I think it was really good for our guys. We were able to get a couple guys back. We were able to rest some guys, that've been banged up, just football banged up. And so I think that helped. And, if I had a younger team, I'd be really, really nervous, which I'm nervous anyway, but, I would be really nervous. But we have an old team, and that the vets, really control the mood and the intensity of practice, and they do a good job. And so I feel good about us being ready for Saturday.
Head coach Joey McGuire with us on Fan University as the Red Raiders get set for a big matchup against the University of Houston. And Coach, I listened to What's Next with Joey McGuire last night, try to get in the spirit of everything. And you said a couple of things that was really stood out to me, talking about, hey, this is obviously a big game, a conference matchup and everything like that, but the expected Texas Tech crowd at Houston. Could you talk a little bit about what you're expecting and just kind of how that ties into really the momentum with this program, the resurgence of the Texas Tech Red Raiders, and of course, being undefeated doesn't hurt either.
So we travel well, but you're staying in Texas, and two of the biggest areas that we have alumni base wise is the Dallas-Fort Worth area and the Houston area. And so I know that anybody in the Houston and surrounding areas, if they have the opportunity to get a ticket to come watch their team, they're going to. And so I expect that we're going to have a large crowd. Our band's traveling because it is in the state of Texas. And so I'm fired up about that. But that's one thing, man. Don't let the Red Raiders get hot whenever it comes to Red Raider Nation and their fan base, our fan base, because, they are fanatics. And I love that. That's one of my favorite things about this place is the passion that our fans have for their university. And so I'm expecting a huge crowd. I think it's going to help us.
Well, Coach McGuire, I love that you mentioned that you have a veteran team this year as opposed to last season, because you're 5-1 going into the bye week last year. Then you come out of the bye, have a tough game against Baylor. This year, you're undefeated going into the bye, come out with a big game. What do you think your team has learned from that last year, and what you've learned from that game last year to make sure that doesn't happen again this year?
Yeah, one, we did not need to bye last year. Even though we had some guys banged up, that was not a team. They needed we were playing off of momentum, and that was kind of a huge momentum stop for us. That was kind of how that team, every team's different, and that team needed that. We didn't need to bye. This year, I think, because you do have guys that have played, I think we're probably one of the oldest teams in college football. We have yet in our advanced scouting, when we advanced scout teams, and you look at the number of starting reps they have on offense, defense, special teams, nobody's been close except for Houston. Houston's the closest team to us as far as snap wise by a long shot. So I'm going to really lean on these guys, and push some buttons with our old guys to get them stirred up and really pissed off to go play on Saturday.
Yeah, Coach, you mentioned the old guys, and Jacob Rodriguez is such a big part of that group, and he was fantastic against Utah. It's for a lot of people that aren't near and around the program, I think they're pretty surprised to see with all the transfers and the guys that returned how close they all are. I mean, you can see the camaraderie and the chemistry of this team. Can you speak a little bit about how Jacob's role has impacted this defensive unit? Because these guys look like they're having fun together, playing hard, and obviously have been very effective early on in the season.
Yeah, we had 3 returning captains, and those 3 guys have been huge. Barron Morton, Bryce Ramirez, and Jacob Rodriguez. And I asked them, I said, guys, you have got to help me bring this team together. And so you see those guys intentionally spending time with everybody on both sides of the ball. I tell a story all the time. I walked into the Cash where we eat every day, and you've got Baron Morton sitting with a freshman tight end, a freshman defensive tackle, and then a senior corner. It's like the most odd mix, because usually when you go in there, you have guys that, they hang out. You got different guys that hang out. It's usually by position, because they're around each other so much. And Barron and Jacob and Bryce have done a great job of being really intentional in bringing this team together.
Joey McGuire is with us on Fan University right here on 105.3. The Fan, getting you set for the college football ahead. And Coach, I had a question all queued up and ready, but you said something that really just kind of piqued my curiosity. So I'm going to throw a little curveball at you. You said you want to get these guys, your guys, motivated, ready to go, and a little bit pissed off. And I hear that, and I think, all right, what does Coach McGuire tell to his guys to get them pissed off and ready for this game? Can you share any examples?
I don't know if I can. That's a great question. I don't know if I can exactly share all of them, but there's going to be some stuff that we stir up. It's going to be the same thing on Houston, and I mean, I guarantee you what Coach Gundy said before the game against Oregon, and he just said it publicly. I guarantee a lot of people are using that as motivation behind closed doors of getting ready to play us because of what we did in the transfer portal. But I've been messing with my defensive tackles, Skylar Bill Howard, Lee Hunter, A.J. Holmes, Jaden Cofield, saying, they're not talking about y'all. They're talking about number 18 and number 5. That's the talk of the town, which it should be. I mean, the Carlos Allen kid, number 5, I mean, he has 31 tackles at the defensive tackle position, which is a unreal amount of tackles, through 4 games. And so I just kind of use that stuff as like, who's going to outplay who? We talk all the time, though, about the mirror for a football player is the tape. And when you turn on the tape, that's like looking in the mirror. And can you turn on the tape on Sunday and say you outplayed the person across from you because of the effort that you played with? And so we'll push those buttons too and see what we can get them revved up about.
I love it. You're getting me fired up.
Well, one button you didn't want to have to push, but you ended up having to push, was putting your backup in against Utah. And Will Hammond was just as effective, if not more effective, than Baron Morton was before he got hurt. What do you think something like that does, seeing a backup quarterback come in and continue a domination of a team on the road? What does that do for a locker room in terms of, I know your team's already confident, but does that instill even a higher level of confidence in the overall team?
I think there's a huge trust factor whenever it comes to Will Hammond, because it's a little bit, like the reason that I think our guys trust him so much is because if you think about that offense, they took every single snap during spring football with Will Hammond as the starting quarterback because Barron was hurt. And then we had a couple days, during camp that we gave some of the vets off. And so whenever, Barron had an off day, then Will Hammond was the starting quarterback. And so those guys, they have a great chemistry with him. And then Will, he's extremely unique, and his maturity level for his age is incredible. It says a lot about, he's got 2 of the best parents I've ever been around. And so they have raised this young man at a whole nother level whenever it comes to the what he brings energy wise in the role that he's in. And so, man, the guys rallied around him because they knew exactly what they were going to get, and they were going to get everything that Will Hammond has every snap.
Well, Coach, we appreciate it here joining Fan University on 105.3 The Fan in Dallas-Fort Worth. Good luck against Houston Saturday night. We're excited to see Barron back and healthy and see the going band from Raiderland and all the fans down there in Houston wearing red. We appreciate it. You're welcome back anytime on the show. Thanks for your time.
Man, thanks for having me, guys. Wreck 'em,
man. That was Texas Tech head coach Joey McGuire ahead of tonight's matchup against the Houston Cougars. Tons of fun sitting down with him. Always a great interview. Carter, Welcome, all showered, ready to go. What do you think of the conversation with Joey?
I loved it. I texted all my friends. We're all Oklahoma grads, and I said, I do not like the school that he coaches for, but I love Joey McGuire. And I totally see why, not just because of the money that they sunk into keeping their own players, bringing in players from outside, but listening to Joey McGuire and talking to him, you can see why people buy in on him so much. He's so genial. He's so easy to talk to, but you can tell that he's a good motivator too. And I think that's gone hugely into why people believe Texas Tech was going to do things this season and why you've seen them, mollywop everyone they've played. It's only 4 games, and they've only played one really strong, what I think is a strong opponent in Utah, but they dominated them on the road. So everything that we listened to him there, I totally, I put Tech in the Big 12 championship game before the season. I'm absolutely keeping them there. I might have them win it now.
Mollywopped, Jake.
Hey, I couldn't have said it better myself, Carter. By the way, congrats on the 10K. That's awesome stuff. But with Coach McGuire, I loved how we got kind of a glimpse into how he and his team have embraced the NIL era and the transfer portal era. And I thought it was really intriguing how he mentioned he uses that as motivation for his guys. And, when Mike Gundy, before he got fired, obviously, when we talked about him making those comments that they did towards Oregon, coaches that can motivate their guys find any way to make it applicable to their team. And that example of how this is what other coaches and other teams are saying about you guys. And rather than shy away from it, yeah, we did go pick up some guys in the portal. Yeah, we did spend a heck of a lot of money in NIL, and this is who we are. And oh, by the way, as Carter put it, we're going to go out and mollywop you. I love it.
I spent the entire 10K thinking of a fun word that I could throw in my first, time I was talking here. I promise. That's all I was thinking. Not throwing up. That wasn't on the mind at all. It was thinking of a fun word to say.
And mollywops will come out. Hey, our producer, Jacob Ray, by the way, has got a glorious all-white Texas Tech Patrick Mahomes jersey. Red Raider alum there, too. Jacob, you confident the Red Raiders head into the Big 12 championship?
I do feel pretty good. I actually, after the win over Utah, I texted some of my former radio co-hosts in Lubbock, and I said, can't wait to see you guys at AT&T Stadium this year and reunite with you guys. So, I'm drinking the Kool-Aid. I'm fired up, man.
The confidence is high in Raiderland. We'll see tonight how they handle the road test against the Houston Cougars. Hey, at the top of the hour, it's time for one of our favorite segments here on Fan University. Jake's Takes is coming up. Is Johnny Manziel the best mentor for Diego Pavia? That and much more next on Fan University here on 105.3 The Fan.
They say in order to remember something, you have to forget something else. Okay, now that is a very cute haircut. That's like a little shag. I've never seen it before. It's the Rachel. Oh, is that your name? Yeah, well, I mean, what's your name? No, I'm Jen. My name's Jen. Right, but I just mean like this is your haircut, but that's hair on your hair. I'm not saying this is your hair. Okay,
got to forget something else to remember that Uber Eats has groceries.
No, that's absurd. Hey, remember when you used to be a, what was it, pepper lady?
Cinnamon Sisters?
Razor Razor.
Saffron Squad?
Nutmeg Maidens?
Sweet Herb?
No.
Nutmeg.
I just said that. Was it Spice Girls?
Doesn't sound right.
Was it Saffron Squad?
And University on 105.3 The Fan.
Fan University here on 105.3 The Fan. And it's time here at the top of the hour for one of our favorite segments on the show. We've got our guy, Jake Rietma, out in the beautiful state of Utah, coming off of watching the West Virginia BYU game. It's been a great first hour. Carter Freeman is here in studio, all showered and ready to go. Jacob Ray is doing a great job there, helping make sure we're on schedule. Guys, what a opportunity, Jake, here for Jake's Takes. We've got some interesting sights and sounds going off, starting with an FAU PA announcer. What did he say over the PA?
Congratulate them. They're now the new face of Ozempic.
Just an incredible bite to start off Jake's Takes here. You guys know I love to just search for the week's best audio. So we're doing a little combination here of sights and sounds on Jake's Takes. But the background on this PA announcer at Florida FAU. So the way that it all worked out, or it was Florida A&M, I believe.
FAMU, yeah.
Florida A&M, but the dance team had just completed their performance, and the congratulations statement of the Honeydew dance team being they're now the new face of Ozempic. Just an incredible way to congratulate them. He took all kinds of backlash for this, and rightfully so. And if you're the PA announcer, as someone that's done some PA announcing before, you don't want to be noticed. And that he got all kinds of backlash for this. Probably went a little bit too far, but it sent the internet on fire, and he successfully went viral.
I feel like there was a little pump fake too before he did this. Like he was like, okay, like in slow-mo in his brain, he thought this is not a good idea. But I'm going full send. I'm doing it. I don't care who I offend. And now I'm seeing he is suspended for the next 2 games for FAMU. He will not be PA announcing for them, which is fair. This is something that, yeah, you say that, you're going to get in trouble for it. I'm not going to lie. I definitely chuckled as I heard it, but
I think a 2-game suspension is a win for our guy here, because that type of comment towards women that are, just performed at halftime and the dance routine, to get away with just a 2-game suspension, I think you'd count that up as a win. But some of the best and worst, in this case, audio from the week. Brennan, have you ever been mistaken for somebody, on Ozempic?
Wow. That is
what a question.
Wonderful question to ask.
Question of the day right there.
I can't say I've been mistaken for someone that is currently using Ozempic. No, not yet, Jake. I haven't even entered my 30s yet, man. Give me,
remember, he's the young one on the show. He doesn't need that just yet.
Give me some time to really need Ozempic first. But I thought this was hilarious. I don't think this was this guy's first time doing something like this either, because if you've got that off the cuff ready to go, you've probably said some questionable things over the PA sound system there before. But 2 games, man, that's perfect. Good for him. He's gonna be right back in action here towards Halloween. Can't wait to see what he says next. And honestly, for the school, it's probably a good thing. Like, it brings so much national attention to FAMU there. I love it. I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah, it's attention. Bad attention is still attention, right? I'm sure that's a way you could look at it. $10,000 fine for him as well, so his pocketbook will be a little lighter because of these comments. But yeah, I guess here we are. I did not expect us to be talking about Florida A&M or Alabama State here in the middle of the college football season. So that's something.
You never know what you're getting with Jake's takes. So, Jake, what do we got coming up now? What's your next little sight and sound? Yeah, great.
Yeah, what's your next question for Brennan?
Asking me if I'm on Ozempic, man. I appreciate it.
From Ozempic. And hey, listen, Lane Kiffin's lost a lot of weight. It was pretty evident in the documentary how much healthier he is. He's cut out alcohol. But anytime we get some Lane Kiffin audio gold, we're going to touch on that here on Jake's Takes. And a lot was made of the Ole Miss LSU matchup from last Saturday. Of course, Ole Miss winning over LSU, and you've got Lane Kiffin's daughter dating the Whit Weeks, the linebacker for LSU, and the photo emerging of Whit Weeks puking during the game, and of course Lane Kiffin late at night in the wee hours of the morning going back and tweeting the photo and saying we fed him a bunch of tempo and going on. And of course, anytime you get Lane Kiffin a little bit off the cusp, it's some captivating audio. And he was on the hit sports podcast, Pardon My Take, this week with the Barstool guys, just chopping it up. And I love the way he touched on his interactions with quarterback Trinidad Chambliss, who's just burst onto the scene and been one of the best additions through the transfer portal. And he came from Division II Ferris State. And we talked about it at length last week, but if you missed that, he was a national champion at the Division II level. Now here he is leading a quarterback in the SEC. And Lane Kiffin talked about the first interaction when he knew that quarterback Trinidad Chambliss was in a little bit bigger environment than what he was used to.
I want to talk about your quarterback real quick. Trinidad, he's awesome, and he came from Ferris State. Really cool story. When you're getting a guy from a transfer portal from Ferris State, what is that process like where you're like, hey, are there question marks? Can he play at this level? Because he obviously has proven that he can, but it's got to be a little weird getting a guy from a smaller school like that and stepping up to the SEC. It's not like stepping up, one level and then going to the SEC. It's Ferris State to the SEC. That's pretty crazy.
Yeah, I think I realized that, like, the first meeting we were in the quarterback meeting, in the fridge has like water, Gatorades and everything. And he's like, do I need to pay for this? Like, dude, Trinidad, it's good, man. You're going to get a lot of stuff here. You're in the SEC on full scholarship. But I love that you just said it's a good story. I love the story. Just think about how many Division II, Division III players there are out there, and here's this kid like living the dream and making the most of it.
How many?
Yeah, that was awesome. And of course, the back portion of that cut is kind of the serious side of this, where he really is kind of a poster child for guys that played at different levels. And, we talk all the time about the dark side or the negative sides of the transfer portals, but some of the success stories are really, really inspiring. But hey, we've gone an hour and 6 minutes without me saying I played Division II football. So the part about Trinidad asking if you have to pay for the Gatorade, nothing has hit more close to home than that. I am scarred. I have PTSD from having to pay for protein shakes after workouts, and the little machine that we had that you had to buy your protein shakes out of. And so I would imagine Trinidad had similar experiences, and all of a sudden you see free Gatorade and Lane Kiffin goes, yeah, you're in the SEC on full scholarship. You're going to get some free swag, man.
Jake, I'm glad you waited until I was here to mention that you played D2 football. It's something I look forward to every Saturday, so it was kind of you to wait an hour into the show when I was here after my run to mention that. But Top Taggart Stadium is where Ferris State, Trinidad Chambliss's former school, that's where they play football. Top Taggart Field. How many people do you think that stadium seats?
Let's go 2,500.
Jake, what do you think?
Having played at Top Taggart Field several times, and I would say I'll go. Yeah, they fill it up. They do a good job. It is a good environment. I'll go 55.
6,200. So 6,200. So
I was doing the prices right. I didn't want to be over.
Yeah, compared to Brendan's, you were closer. So I guess I'll give you that one.
You win.
Compared to Top Taggart Field, Vaught Hemingway Stadium, where Ole Miss plays, 64,000. So it's 10 times more people than fit into Ole Miss's stadium than Ferris State Stadium. And I think I know that Ferris State is a great program. They're winning titles at the Division II level, but for Trinidad Chambliss to come to Ole Miss and look like he's played in stadiums that seat 60,000 plus on a regular basis has been incredible. I picked LSU to win last week. My mistake. I was the only one of us to pick them. Trinidad Chambliss has 100% convinced me Ole Miss is one of the best teams in the SEC, along with everything else that Lane Kiffin has done since he's been there. I think that's just the perfect meld that they found there. And I thought last year with Ole Miss, that was their year. They went in the portal. They got a ton of players. They were trying to go for the playoff. It didn't work. I think they have found a way to maybe, if not be at the highest level like Alabama and Georgia were, as they were in their dominant, dynasties, mini dynasties, whatever you want to call them. I think Ole Miss is very close to right underneath that. And that's perfect in this 12-team playoff era for them to always compete for a playoff spot, and this year, potentially a spot in the SEC title game.
Yeah, one of the most underrated stories of the college football season, I think, is what he's doing with Ole Miss, because they weren't really talked about in that upper echelon of potential contenders in the SEC either this year, Jake. And so you're looking at a guy coming from Ferris State. And, dude, shout out to you. We named some random Division II stadium, and you've played in it. It's
Top Taggart Field.
Top Taggart Field. That's awesome. But, yeah, Ole Miss, it's been really interesting. I'm excited to see what they do. They have some key matchups coming up. They play Oklahoma, Carter, I believe, here in a couple of weeks.
Yes, at the end of
October.
October, yes. So hoping to go to that game.
So, Jake, lots of opportunity for OU and for Ole Miss and Trinidad to continue to make statements here on the national stage. It's going to be an exciting story to watch for Ole Miss.
Jake, did you guys beat Ferris State when you played there?
We did not. Ferris State had quite the long run. Although I take that back. My true freshman year, when one Jake Reitman was being redshirted, obviously, wasn't quite ready to burst onto the scene as a true freshman. The old Northwood Timberwolves pulled the upset. Hey. But Tony Anise, who's the head coach at Ferris State and has been for a long time, was really close friends with my late father, who coached at Northwood, and a lot of history there. And don't worry, during the break, I'm going to send you guys photos of me playing at Top Taggart Field, and then some photos of me at home when we played Ferris State, lining up against Zach Zeeler, who's the defensive tackle now for the Miami Dolphins, and you will see how overmatched I was. It was on a punt, so don't worry. The punt was not blocked. But more story time for the break, because right now it's Jake's Takes here, right on 105.3 The Fan University, and from a success story in Lane Kiffin and Trinidad Chambliss to a story that caught my eye as I'm reading the headline, because Diego Pavio has been another fantastic story, another success story in the transfer portal. But when I read who is now mentoring Diego Pavio, and we'll talk with Vandy.com's Robbie Weinstein here in a little bit and can probably ask him a little bit more about the Commodores, but Johnny Manziel apparently mentoring Diego Pavio. And mentors can mean a lot of things. No mentorship looks the exact same as any one other one, but can you think of a worse possible mentor from a quarterback that's having success at the collegiate level than Johnny freaking Manziel? Somebody get in his ear and tell him this is a bad idea.
I mean, I want to say that it's a bad idea, but if you're talking pure football, I kind of like it.
Can Johnny talk pure football? Is he capable of that?
Probably not. But look, I think Pavia, he wants to be. He wears number 2. He plays like Johnny. He's leading the team in rushing. He's nowhere near as good a passer as Johnny Manziel. Johnny Manziel could actually throw the football. I think Diego Pavia is able to make big plays with his arm because people are so set on stopping the run for Vanderbilt. We'll see that today against Alabama. But I don't know, man. Yeah, maybe if it's on the green grass on the field inside a stadium, I'm okay with it because Pavi is trying to kind of replicate what Johnny Football's doing. But off the field, Diego, stay away, brother. You can do better.
I think, man, I feel like at this point, it's been 13, 12 years since Manziel was in college and, about a decade since he flamed out of the NFL, right, with the Browns. So we've gone through, I think we've gotten to a point where we not only do we look back and we, just have these wonderful memories of him playing football specifically, but I think Manziel has gotten his life together much more so than he did at the end of the 2010s, at the beginning of the 2020s, that he has his podcast. He seems like he's in a much better place personally, and I know there was a Netflix documentary about his time at A&M with the money and, you know, all the fun that came afterwards is how I'll put it. But I think today is probably the best point you can talk to Johnny Manziel about football and maybe not get as much of the extracurriculars that we will always associate him with. There's no doubt we will always think of him as the party animal, and I'm sure he probably still is, but he seems to have himself together in a way that, especially if you're a college football quarterback on a big stage, because I think Diego Pavia is probably top 10 Heisman contender right now. I don't think anyone's super like separated themselves, so I'll throw him in there. For a dude on a national stage, you're not going to involve yourself with someone like 2013, 2014 Johnny Manziel. I think in today's day and age, it makes a little more sense. It's a little better.
I just pray that those conversations all start with, hey, do as I say, not as I did. Don't be like me. Learn from me. And I've listened to some of the sound bites. Admittedly, I haven't listened to Johnny Manziel's entire podcast and everything, but some of the sound bites I've seen, yes, it seems like he's got it together, but at the same time, he's still the arrogant Johnny football, and there's still going to be a little glimpse of me that if I'm anybody associated with that Vanderbilt program, I am a little bit concerned with him talking to Johnny Manziel.
Look, if you're Diego Pavia too, you already know how to beat Alabama. That's probably something you want to talk to Johnny Manziel about because he went into Tuscaloosa his freshman year and beat Alabama. So maybe those are some pointers that Pavia wants since this game for Vanderbilt is on the road. But yeah, I mean, Diego Pavia he's proven he can win at home, on the road, no matter where it is. Like he seems to have things set.
And this is an opportunity for Vanderbilt, and we're going to be talking to Robbie Weinstein right on 10:20 here coming up on the Fan. This is a chance for Diego to, like you said, maybe enter the top 5 in the Heisman. Maybe show, hey, well, last year was not a fluke. We are for real in the SEC. It's going to be interesting to see. Jake, to your point from the 956 here on the text line, 877-881-1053. Nope. Do what I say, not what I did, from Johnny Manziel. So maybe Diego will take that advice.
For sure, for sure. It's Jake's Takes on Fan University. We got time for one more awesome soundbite because I love some coach comedy. Coaches using humor after a win, and we haven't talked to any Texas A&M Aggies yet on Fan University today. And leave it to Mike Elko for this amazing soundbite. How do you prevent his team from committing so many penalties? This might be the best idea I've heard yet.
All right, so I'll let you guys in. So I've tried all kinds of things. So today what we started was the Texas A&M football coaches Cabo Fund. And so what's going to happen now is every time one of our players gets a penalty, they're going to contribute to the coaches Cabo Fund. And so we'll see if that works.
I like it.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
If in today's NIL era, the players are making enough. If they commit a dumb penalty, you're just like the swear jar. You're putting cash into my Cabo Fund. And Mike Elko, kudos to him for the most creative way to prevent his team from committing some penalties. But in all seriousness, Texas A&M, top 10 team, they didn't cover for me. That hook got me, which was tough. But at the same time, they got the win, which is most important. And they are rolling there in College Station.
Accountability is always a big thing for coaches. And I think that, yeah, like you said, in today's day and age of money, this is a perfect way to hold them accountable. Because, yes, in that game against Auburn, the A&M won last weekend, it was the same thing. I think it's just an Auburn thing. Whenever you play Auburn, you're just going to commit a ton of penalties because Auburn also commits a ton of penalties because it was the same thing in the Oklahoma game the week before, A&M the last week. Tons of penalties. But yeah, if you can hold them accountable, hold them to a little bit of money, especially if it's maybe not a, Marcel Reed, who probably has a pretty decent NIL fund, if it's maybe a backup receiver that does something stupid, it's like, yeah, I'm going to be a little more wary of this. I don't want to lose all the money that I got coming in.
Yeah, now you can charge minimum $5K, $10K. You can really get some serious money out of these kiddos now, man, Jake. So I think that's a great idea. More schools need to implement that. Send the coaches to Cabo. Come on, we're gonna start a hashtag here.
The coaches don't have enough money to do that themselves, right?
Money.
So help them out a little bit.
Help them, especially at the D2 level. Let's really start it there, Jake, for you. Hey,
now we're talking.
Now we're talking. Hey, tomorrow, Corey Majors for the official fan watch party at noon is going to be at the Bearded Monkey on 104 East US Highway 80 in Forney, Texas. Beautiful. Love Forney. Come watch the game with some fellow Tolos, Corey, and enter to win some great prizes. We'll see you tomorrow at the Bearded Monkey in Forney for the watch party. Coming up next on Fan University, we sit with Robbie Weinstein from Vandy.com. You are listening to Fan University on 105.3 The Fan.
Uber Eats has low fee products? I gotta remember that.
Well, you know, they say in order to remember something, you have to forget something else. Okay, now that is a very cute haircut. That's like a little shag. I've never seen it before. Well, I mean, of course you have. It's the Rachel. Oh, is that your name? No, I mean like your name. No, I'm Jen. My name's Jen. Right, but I just mean like this is your haircut. But that's hair on your head. I'm not saying this is your hair. Okay, please.
it's true that you've got to forget something else to remember that Uber Eats has groceries?
No, that's absurd. Hey, remember when you used to be a, what was it, Pepper Lady?
Wasn't it Cinnamon Sisters?
Basil Babes.
Saffron Squad?
Nutmeg Maidens?
Paprika?
No. You said that. Was it Spice Girls?
Doesn't sound right.
Was it Saffron Squad?
You've been injured in a car or truck wreck, call Frankel first, 214 or 817-333-3333. With Frankel and Frankel, there is never an out-of-pocket cost. They only get paid when you win. Frankel and Frankel, the go-to car and truck wreck attorneys in Dallas.
The backfield and gave Fisher the fullback in as well. Fisher leading that block. Pavia keeps it. He'll walk into the corner of the end zone. A 5-yard touchdown run. And Vandy's got a little bit of breathing room.
5-3, the fan Jake Remo alongside Brendan Baxter and Carter Freeman. Right now, pleased to be joined by a good friend of mine, going all the way back to the grad school days at Northwestern, and he now covers the Commodores for Vandy 24/7. Our good buddy, Robbie Weinstein, joining Fan University. Good morning, Robbie. Thanks so much for joining us. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing great, Jake. This is a crazy game, right? In that, who would have thought that Vandy, of all teams, would be going into Alabama and have like some sort of shot to win? But I would say I'd like their chances better if they had former Northwood University defensive back Jake Riepma back there in the secondary.
We all would.
Come on, dude, I was supposed to open with a one-liner, and you beat me to it. That's what we're all right. We're gonna have to. I did not pay Robbie to say that, guys, but I appreciate.
I don't believe you.
Yeah, me neither.
These guys have to hear nonstop about the playing days. But in all seriousness, man, what a time to be covering the Commodores, and what has that just been like? Just kind of the resurgence and really a rise into relevancy here, not just in the SEC, but nationally.
Yeah, it's been bizarre, honestly, because obviously working for 24/7, a lot of what I do is in recruiting as well, and I am used to, this goes back like 5 years, whether it's high school recruiting or like transfers. It's almost like Vandy is over here doing their thing. They're trying to play money ball because they can't get high-level recruits because of the lack of brand and just the lack of winning over the years. And it's like, you got an Alabama or Georgia and Michigan battling it out over these, top transfers, and then, they're playing into January, and that's what everyone is watching. And it almost feels like Vandy has been playing in in the minor leagues or something, even though they get a couple shots a year against good SEC teams. And now it's like, okay, like 12-team playoff, Vandy might genuinely make this thing. It's definitely, if they were to win today, they'd be favorites to be in the playoff. And so, it's been crazy. I mean, my first year covering the team, they went 0-9 during COVID. So that was, they've had a glow up for sure.
Robbie, did you see this coming at all? Was this more of like really last year was a welcome party to Vandy entering the national stage, or were there building blocks in 2021 and 2022 where you started seeing, hey, we're actually putting resources into the program, we're getting better players, or was really last year the welcome to Vanderbilt football moment?
It was more last year. I mean, the early stages of Clark Lee's tenure, I thought they did some smart things in terms of their recruiting approach, but it didn't actually end up working that well because, honestly, their hit rate on like high school recruits wasn't that good. They were having, I think the first recruiting class they had was ranked pretty decently. They had 3 or 4 or 5 4-star recruits in there, but they didn't really pan out, and the guys who panned out transferred pretty quickly because Vandy didn't have any NIL. And so essentially after that 2-10 season in 2023, they realized, I think, less Clark Lee, but like administration realized that they needed to get serious about NIL. And then Clark Lee, had kind of hired some of his buddies basically, or like assistant coaches, coordinators who had been heavily recommended by his friends, like Bronco Mendenhall specifically recommended the defensive coordinator who wasn't any good. And so he got rid of those guys and went out and hired Tim Beck to run the offense, who there was zero like prior connection with or anything like that. He just hired the best ball coach. And what do you know? I mean, ever since then, it's been completely different because I think they're just, they're functioning more like a regular SEC program, I guess, both from a money standpoint and being a little more cutthroat.
When you mentioned Clark Lee, and I'm just so fascinated with him because I think it was last year we were laughing that Vanderbilt was getting first place votes in the SEC preseason poll, but now obviously they go, they have a winning record last year, upset Alabama. They're 5-0 this year with the second best rushing attack in the SEC. Do you think Clark Lee has a long-term future at Vanderbilt, or is he going to be the kind of guy that other programs, even maybe in the SEC, will look at because he's only 43 and say he's someone who can lead us to great places?
Yeah, I'm sure other programs will look at him. I mean, I could see him being like a C-list Florida candidate this year, but I don't think, if that job opens, but I don't think that
it will.
Yeah, I assume so, yeah. I don't think that he is going to leave anytime soon. There are a few reasons for that. One, he's from Nashville. He loves living there. His kids are pretty young and they're in school. His dad is there and is at all the practices. Barton Simmons, the GM, who used to work for 24/7, he is from Nashville. I don't think he has any interest in leaving. We're 5 games into the season. We're almost halfway through the season, and they are sitting there ranked number 16, and they've got a shot to do some things in this new era of college football. So I could see someday, I could see him going back to Notre Dame or something, or maybe the NFL, but I don't think he's really in a rush, because if he's going to coach until he's 65 years old or something, that's a 22-year runway, and he doesn't need to be in a rush to get to a blue blood job right away. I mean, he's an alum of the football program, and he loves living here. So I think he's got a pretty good setup right now.
We're talking with Robbie Weinstein right here on Fan University on 105.3 The Fan. Robbie covers the Vanderbilt Commodores for Vandy 24/7. And Robbie, I can't believe we've gone this long without bringing up the star of the Vanderbilt Commodores and the way Diego Pavia has just emerged as, in the three of us, we've talked about this all the time, a legitimate Heisman contender. And obviously today against Alabama is a totally different animal. But what do you think has been the key to his success? And he's kind of been that, another success story from the transfer portal, had a lot of success at New Mexico State and has just kept it rolling in the SEC. And from your eyes, how has he been able to do that?
He's a lot better passer than I think a lot of people realize, and that even includes last season. I want to say his completion rate was only 59%, but that was a little bit misleading because they could not protect him, and the wide receivers were not getting open, basically. I remember I was at that Auburn game last year, and he completed less than 50% of his passes. But you look, the Auburn press box is behind the end zone, and so you can really tell, who's open and who's not. And the wide receivers weren't getting open at all. So I think what they did is they spent some money in the transfer portal on offensive line and wide receiver. And now that he has better weapons around him, that has really helped. He's running the ball less this season because they don't want him to get hurt. But I think this is the type of game today where you could see him carry the ball 20 times. So he's always been a tough runner, but I think his passing has been a little bit underrated. And I do also think I want to give him a little bit of credit. I think he has gotten a little bit better as a passer as well. He throws a really nice back shoulder fade. He's accurate, in the short and intermediate throws. He threw a nice deep ball last year. That has been pretty inconsistent so far this season. But he's got a lot more receivers running open, and that makes life easier on the quarterback.
Robbie, you mentioned that he's not running as much. Diego's still leading the team in rushing this year, too. But you've got Cedric Alexander, who's had a good year as well, too. Do you feel like this game plan against Alabama is more so, hey, Diego, go get it done. We're gonna run you if we need to. There's no really protection here. And then how do you feel like that run game is going to be the key component? Alabama has struggled against the run this year, giving up over 200 yards to Georgia last week, though they found a way to win. What's the game plan for the Commodores, and do you expect a lot of running RPO-type action from Diego? And then how do they get Cedric Alexander involved?
Yeah, I think you're spot on. This is what they've been saving him for. They haven't called a lot of designed runs. He has racked up some yards on his own, basically, whether scrambling or occasionally calling his own number when maybe they don't really want him to. I think it's all going to be on the table for this game. They haven't run any triple option much at all this season, which was a part of what they did last year. They haven't had to use any of their trick plays. Tim Beck and Jerry Kill are known for the creativity on offense in terms of play calling and having some really unique trick plays up their sleeves, and they haven't used any of them. They haven't used Eli Stowers, the tight end, who's a former quarterback, as a direct snap guy yet. So they've got a lot in their bag they can go to, and I do agree. I think because of how explosive Alabama's passing offense can be with those wide receivers who are really, really good against the Vandy secondary that's so-so, I think they're going to want to lean on Alexander a little bit more in this game, the ground game, and try to grind out the clock. I still think, they've been scoring lots of points and they haven't been playing as slow as last year. But I do think that this might be the type of situation where they're going to get back to that identity a little bit, and that means feeding Alexander. It means Pavia possibly carrying the ball, like I said, 20-plus times. So I would think they're going to be relatively, run heavy in this game probably.
Robbie Weinstein bringing the heat this morning on Fan University. We appreciate it. You can follow him on Twitter at RW Weinstein and find his work on Vandy 24/7. Robbie, appreciate it, my man, and enjoy watching the Commodores. And you and I both can agree it's certainly better than watching some of those bad Northwestern teams we suffered through.
Yeah, maybe the Cats will get it going someday, but unfortunately that day is probably not today. We'll keep our fingers crossed for 2026, I guess.
Yeah, there you go. All right, man. Appreciate it. There he goes. Robbie Weinstein, thanks so much for joining us on Fan University. We keep it rolling, previewing Alabama and Vanderbilt, one of the biggest games on tap for this college football Saturday. Of course, College Game Day is there. And guys, I think this is the opportunity, and I'm not alone in saying this. Of course, we all kind of, I think, agree that this could be one of the biggest, most memorable coming out parties for Vanderbilt. But at the same time, Alabama's got things rolling, and Kalen DeBoer seems to be back to the old Kalen DeBoer that Alabama thought they were hiring in the first place.
Yeah, I don't want to give our picks away because they're coming up here in 5 minutes, but I don't know if I'm riding with the confidence that Robbie's got for Vanderbilt this afternoon in Tuscaloosa, but we'll see, Carter. I don't know.
Man, you just got to love that Diego Pavia doesn't care where he plays. He plays the same game no matter where. If it's at Vanderbilt Stadium, if it was at the small stadium he played at New Mexico State before he went to Nashville, or a ginormous 100,000-seat SEC football stadium, he's just the same dude. That's something that's so impressive about him, is that when he was at New Mexico State, they went into Auburn and beat Auburn. Then they beat Auburn again last year, and they beat Alabama. Diego Pavia just owns the state of Alabama. I don't know if he's ever played Troy or South Alabama or the cheerleaders at Alabama State, right? I don't know if he's played those teams or not, but I'm sure he would beat them. So I also not giving my pick away just yet. But I understand Robbie's level of confidence. And really quickly, how many points do you think Vanderbilt needs to score to win this game?
I'm going to say over 30.
I think they need 40 like they got last year.
Okay.
40 to 35. I think it's going to be something similar.
Okay.
I had five touchdowns in my head, maybe a field goal mixed in, and maybe a defensive play would go a long way. 40 plus for sure.
Okay, guys, easy. We got picks coming up right around the corner.
I said he's going to win yet.
Into it. Hey,
you're getting there.
Good tease. Well, coming up next, we'll go through our game picks for the day. Football is less than 30 minutes away here on a wonderful Saturday. You're listening to Fan University on 105.3 The Fan.
Sean and RJ here with the greatness of Underdog.
Uber Eats has low fee products? I gotta remember that.
Well, you know, they say in order to remember something, you have to forget something else. Okay, now that is a very cute haircut. That's like a little shag. I've never seen it before. Well, I mean, of course you have. It's the Rachel. Oh, is that your name? No, I mean, like your name. No, I'm Jen. My name's Jen. Right, but I just mean like this is your haircut. But that's hair on your head. I'm not saying this is your hair. Okay.
To sell Silverados, Tahoes, Blazers, Malibus, Equinox, and more. Visit ClassicChevrolet.com. This is Texas. This is Classic Chevrolet. Together, let's drive, relax, and enjoy the difference based on new Chevrolet registrations 2023 and 2024.
It's Fan University on 105.3 The Fan. Hope everybody's having a great morning. We are less than 20 minutes from the 11 a.m. kickoffs. Got some good ones coming up, and that means it is time for our game picks and predictions. Last week, just to give the scoreboard here between Carter, Jake, and I.
Do we have to?
We have to, Carter, unfortunately.
Yeah, let's spend more time on this than
Jake,
we have. I think the people want a deep dive recap and really get in touch with Fan University and say, who are the ball knowers? No, I'm kidding. The guy has one good week and he starts taking a victory lap. So I apologize. I know the football gods will humble us. So I'm just going to backpedal because the overall record still isn't great.
Anytime you go 5-1 in a pick'em or have that many right picks, I think you get all the bragging rights in the world because it's not easy because you have all these preconceived notions before a game starts and then all of a sudden it's like, why in the world did I think that? But Brennan's the one who should be bragging. He's been 5-1 in the last 2 weeks.
Listen, I'm happy to give Jake the floor. It's been a rough fall for Jake Rietma when it comes to picks, and I think a 5-1 week for him means more than it does for me. But yes, 5-1 for Jake and I, 3-3 for Carter. So Carter, you're still bad 500. You know, you're not doing horrible there, and we've got a good slate we're covering here for the games today, Jake. We've covered some of these. Talked to Robbie, talked to Joey McGuire, talked to Shihan, Jay Araja as well to cover some of these games. We're going to start off with Texas and Florida. Arch Manning back in action, a road game at the struggling Florida Gators, a battle of quarterbacks that struggle mightily on third down, two of the worst third down percentages in offenses in all of FBS. Jake, who do you like, Texas or Florida? Florida is plus 6.5 at home.
Yeah, I feel confident in the Longhorns for a number of different reasons. And going back to the picks, if you will, the Tolos know Jared Sandler does one of the biggest pick'em leagues in all of the country, let alone DFW. But I got third place in that weekly pick'em with how well my picks were last week. And so I had a nice little payout. But this week, you label your picks or number your picks by confidence meters. And this is the pick I'm most confident in. So it's a 10-pointer for me this week in Jared Sandler's pick'em. But I love the Longhorns in a big spot here because I do not believe one bit in that Florida Gators team. I think the Texas defense is so good and so dominant that anything less than 10 points for the Gators, I'll be shocked. And even on that, I think it's if they were to score 10 points, it's a defensive touchdown or it's a special teams touchdown. So it's not even a vote of confidence for Arch and that offense. It's more of my belief in the Texas defense just completely stifling this Florida offense. Give me Texas to win and cover the 6.5.
Both these teams coming off a bye, but yeah, I am wearing an Oklahoma shirt, but I am picking Texas. I'm expecting, like you mentioned, the defense. Florida's defense is their strength. Their offense is horrendous, but their defense, the Florida defense, is dealing with a lot of injuries right now, and I just think that's just going to be too much. I know this is a home game for Florida. Ben Hill Griffin Stadium is not an easy place to play. I've been to that stadium. It is an awesome place if you ever get the chance to go, but I do think this is not going to be a high-scoring game, but 20 points for Texas should be more than enough for them to win, so give me the Horns.
Coming off a bye week, the Florida Gators, DJ Lagway, huge disappointment. But Texas offense on the road, I didn't like what I saw against Ohio State. Very good defense. Florida's defense is not half bad themselves. Give me a 13-10 Florida win right here, man. And maybe it's just because of my disdain for the Longhorns, but I like Florida at home to really put some pressure on Texas to make it a must-win next week, Carter, against your Sooners at the Red River.
Doing what I wanted to do but couldn't do, just watching the two teams on the field, because, yes, there is anti-Longhorn passion here as a Sooner grad.
You want to know how you go 5-1 in your picks? You pick with your heart, Carter, and that's what I'm doing here today as well. It's time to go 6-0. Next game, Vandy at Bama. Jake, we just spoke to your good pal Robbie there at Vandy.com. You rolling with the Commodores, or are you going to have to ruin Robbie's day?
Yeah, listen, all love to my guy, Robbie Weinstein, which if you missed that on the Odyssey Rewind, you had some really good insight for us. Also, I should tell the fellas here so that our egos can get even bigger. He said, you guys know ball. I go on a lot of shows, and a lot of times they're clueless. We are not clueless here on Fan University. So let me just injure myself patting us on the back here. But I still like Alabama. At home, that's one of the toughest places to play, even if the Tide aren't at their absolute best. All of their struggles, and by all, I know I'm overgeneralizing, but they've struggled on the road at times, and they put that to bed with a road win over Georgia. Kalen DeBoer got what he needed, that statement victory, get everybody believing, and now go out and be the better, more dominant team. Love Vandy, love Robbie for being on the show with us, but it's the Alabama Crimson Tide. Roll Tide, win and cover.
I do think that Vandy's going to cover in this game. I don't think I just think because of the logo that Vandy has, you look at them and say, oh, they'll just get blown out. They'll lose by 20 because it's at Alabama. But I just think Vandy is a genuinely good football team. I think this is going to be a close game. But in a close game, I will give the benefit of the doubt to the home team. Plus what we've seen from Ty Simpson in Alabama, he's looked like a Heisman contender, hasn't thrown a pick yet. So, knock on wood, he probably will today because I said that. But I do think Bama will win, but I think Vandy will cover.
I like Vandy covering. I do think that Ty Simpson has almost separated himself as one of the better quarterbacks in the country, especially in the SEC this year, where a lot of those guys, Nussmeier, Sellers, et cetera, have kind of fallen off a little bit. I like Bama here. I think I listened to Josh Pate's college football show this week, and he was at that Georgia-Bama game, and he said that those guys walking off the field were already focused on Vandy. They weren't even celebrating the Georgia win. They were ready to go. This is a redemption game. I think Bama's going to come out with a lot of fire. I feel like Ty Simpson just brings some confidence to this team they did not have last year with Jalen Milroe. Give me Bama at home over Vandy. So, okay, a game that I'm most looking forward to. Jacob Ray back there as well, wearing that clean Tech jersey. We're going to have him pick this one as well.
Pick? I wonder.
Texas Tech at Houston, 10.5. Jacob, I'm going to go to you first there. You got the cleanest jersey on. You like Tech to cover at Houston?
Oh, baby. I like him to double the cover. Give me a 3-touchdown win in Houston. Willie Fritz isn't going to know what hit him. I think that the Raiderland is going to be taking over Houston. I just don't trust their fan base. You know what happened last time, Brennan, when Houston wore the powder blues in basketball? They lost to a JT Toppin-less Texas Tech men's basketball team, and that's going to happen again today. But none of our players are getting kicked out.
No, and especially early in the game, especially in the first 2 minutes of the game. Man, I love Texas Tech here on the road. I think their front four on the defensive side of the ball is legit, Jake. I'm going Texas Tech to cover 10.5. Wreck 'em.
Yeah, I'm keeping the momentum train going with any coach that comes on Fan University, and we have been fortunate and grateful for Joey McGuire, Rhett Lashley, Eric Morris, the list goes on. And what happens after they go on Fan University, the Joey McGuire is going to, in fact, rewrite that script and give us a big Texas Tech victory. In fact, win and cover. So I'm drinking the same Texas Tech Kool-Aid that Jacob Ray and Brennan Baxter are spewing out. And listen, it's contagious, fellas. I love it. I love the boys being all on the same page with the Texas Tech Red Raiders.
Just like the Meatloaf song, you took the words right out of my mouth. Because that contagious was the word that I was thinking of with this Texas Tech energy. I just think that you mentioned the front four. Baron Morton's coming back. Houston, I think they're going to make a bowl game. I think they're going to be much improved. I still have questions about Connor Wegman and the offense. This is a team that needed overtime to beat Oregon State, who does not have a win yet. So give me Texas Tech. Texas Tech has designated this as like their 8th home game because there's going to be a ton of Tech fans in Houston. So give me the Red Raiders.
Yeah, Kirby Hocutt, Texas Tech's athletic director, actually tweeted out, sold out Texas Tech's 8th home game and put a little arrow for Houston in the home game slate. So some savagery from Kirby Hocutt. He likes to do that occasionally on Twitter. It's awesome. All right, next game, one of the big ones of the weekend, Miami at Florida State. Miami a 4.5-point favorite. Florida State coming off the loss. We talked about it. At Virginia, a home game for the Seminoles. They've got the home win against Alabama to start the year. Do they double up a second top 10 win? Jake Riepma, do the Seminoles find a way to knock off number 3 Miami at home?
Listen, we talk super dogs on this program from time to time, and I don't think you can put Florida State in the category of a super dog here. And there's no perfect formula for picking an underdog, but I'll tell you what, one of my favorite components to picking an underdog is being at home coming off a loss. And Florida State has that working for them. And Coach Norvell has done a great job of rejuvenating that program. We saw what they looked like against Alabama in week number 1. And I chalk that loss to Virginia up as one of those extenuating circumstances. You got a Friday night game. They didn't play their best, of course. Virginia played out of their mind. They had, of course, the home field advantage and everything else. So long-winded way of saying, I like Florida State here in a bounce-back situation, and a little teaser for my underdog pick of the week to win outright. But give me the Seminoles at home.
I like it, Jake. I'm with you on, I think people were writing off Florida State a little too quickly because their offense did still gain 570 yards or something like that. They still had an excellent day on offense, and it was a double overtime loss. It's not like they got blown out on the road, but this Miami team is different. And I want to get into this more in the next segment, so I'll say my thoughts on Miami for then. I'm taking the Hurricanes. I think Miami is one of the 2 best teams in the country, so give me Miami.
I like that. Except not so fast.
Not so fast, my friend.
In honor of Lee Corso, I'm riding with the state of Florida this week. I don't know, something about the Sunshine State's really speaking to me. Got the Gators knocking off the Longhorns, and I'm going to go with the Seminoles knocking off Miami. I do not like, if you've listened to us, I'm not a huge Carson Beck guy.
Just fair. I think that's fair.
Played well, but I'm not sold on Carson Beck yet on the road. In his last 2 games, he's thrown 3 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, so he hasn't necessarily been lights out either. Give me the Seminoles at home to upset Miami and really put a race to the top between them and Miami for the ACC championship game, Jake.
Okay, real quick, I'm just going to interject because I love you, Brennan Baxter, and I love your state of Florida take, but I just want to clarify and making sure like Tallahassee is also in Florida. It's very far north in the panhandle, if you will, but it is still in the state of Florida, and I just want to make sure that we are all on that same page.
That's the capital of Florida.
Wait, I know Miami's also in Florida. I'm saying pro Florida, like I'm picking Florida State and Florida.
Got it. Oh, you're picking Florida State?
Yeah.
Oh, my bad. I clearly was not listening. Yes.
So you got a bunch of mountains around you. I get it, man.
Jake's enjoying the scenery there in Utah and not hearing me correctly. I understand. I do see how that can be confusing considering Miami's also in Florida.
It is.
But I apologize there for the confusion, Jake. Let's get real quick to Mississippi State A&M. This might be a secret super dog here, Carter.
No more secret. This is my super dog pick is Mississippi State. Mississippi State is 100% covering in this game. A&M gives up big plays and they make big plays. Mississippi State does not give up big plays and they do not get big plays. Something's got to give. Mississippi State has looked so much better than what people thought they were going to be. They nearly knocked off Tennessee last week, which I have a fun Tennessee stat in the next segment. A&M is going to win. Mississippi State is going to cover. I think they're going to cover big time. I think this is going to be a 3-4 point kind of game. But give me the Aggies, but Mississippi State's going to cover.
Jake, who do you like?
Interesting. I hope that Mississippi State fares better for you as your super dog than they did for me last week. And I'll say gagging that game against Tennessee away. They had opportunities.
Yep.
It goes to overtime. The college overtime format, anything can happen. But even worse than that, listen, here's why I'm down on Mississippi State. You talk about Stark Vegas and how great of an atmosphere it was. The Big Orange took over that stadium. It was Neyland Stadium in that game, and there was a lot to be made. Even Lane Kiffin made a jab at Mississippi State for letting Tennessee faithful invade Stark Vegas, and the whole lower bowl on Tennessee side was completely that Tennessee Orange. So I'm not. And fool me once, I'm out. I'm out on the Mississippi State Bulldogs because it was this close from sounding like a genius as a super dog pick and winning against Tennessee outright. So give me A&M, and plus I love a good Mike Elko soundbite.
I'm also going A&M here just to prove I'm not completely biased when it comes to picking against Texas schools other than Texas Tech. So we're gonna segue coming up at the 11 o'clock hour. Carter's Corner is coming up, and we're gonna add one more pick in our Super Dogs to Carter's segment coming up at 11 o'clock on 105.3 The Fan.
Do you think it's true that you've got to forget something else to remember that Uber Eats has grown
remember something, you have to forget something else. Okay, now that is a very cute haircut. That's like a little shag. I've never seen it before. Well, I mean, of course you have. It's the Rachel. Oh, is that your name? No, I mean, what's your name? No, I'm Jen. My name's Jen. Right, but I just mean like this is your haircut. But that's your I'm not saying this is your hair. Okay, you're freaking me out a little bit.
Driven by our D&M Leasing Studios, it's your college football fix. Welcome to Fan University on 105.3 The Fan.
That's right. It is Fan University on 105.3 The Fan. I am Brennan Baxter, joined with Carter Freeman and Jake Rima. We've got Jacob Ray in the back. It is officially the 11 o'clock hour. Games are kicking off, and that also means here on Fan University that it is time for Carter's Corner.
In just a moment,
just one
we're
second,
hear
we
this
think it's time for
awesome
Carter's
intro that I made. How about right now?
Carter, anything? Oh, that's right. You don't come on the radio.
Carter?
Carter Goodell.
He's Carter Freeman.
Carter Freeman?
Will not allow Gavin Dawson to go on the radio and lie anymore, saying I don't come on the radio.
There you go.
Because
You're
I
here.
am.
And just we wanted to really just have the anticipation mount for a few seconds here. Just keep it paused. Give people the excitement.
Mounting the anticipation. We've got mountains in the background of Jake Riepma's shot as he is out in Utah right now. Please get to the fan cam. Please check out the beautiful view behind him. But fellas, I think we have one or two more picks that we want to get to. So let's get to those really quick. Our last pick for today is a local product, SMU. They are hosting Syracuse. SMU, 17.5-point favorites. Pretty big line there. So, Brennan, what say you, SMU or the Orange of Syracuse?
Look, Syracuse found a way to beat Clemson. I know that's nothing special this year, but it was still on the road. I like SMU to win this game, but this is my super dog.
Okay.
I think that Syracuse is going to come into Dallas, play well. If you can go in at Clemson, I think the confidence from that game. But I think SMU will win by 10 to 14 points.
It is a big number for sure, but I'll also add a little bit of rumor mill discussion that obviously Rhett Lashley's name among the desired candidates for the opening at Arkansas. So how does that factor into the current state of SMU? One side of my brain tells me maybe old Rhett Lashley and the Mustangs will have some style points and want to be able to cover that big number. But I also would tell you on the other side of the brain that Rhett Lashley was very proactive and vocal about his where his priorities are, his focus being on that SMU team, and kind of at least for the foreseeable future in this season, putting those conversations to bed about the future of the Arkansas program. So give me the SMU Mustangs. I know we're not saying pony up anymore, but kick 'em Stangs or whatever else we want to say. I think they win and win big.
Whatever the phrase is for SMU, that's what you'll be saying a lot because I do think they'll win. Syracuse goes to Clemson, wins by 13, 34-21. The very next week at home against Duke, they lose 38-3.
Yeah.
So there's
so weird.
I think there's just so much just variety. There's just so much variance with Syracuse. I mean, even in week 2, it took them overtime to beat UConn, who then that was when Fran Brown was making his players run sprints after the game because of how bad they performed. So I don't know what I'm going to get out of Syracuse. I know SMU is going to score a lot of points, probably give up a lot of points too, but I do think SMU will walk away with the win. So super dogs, we'll get to those, then we'll get to a little bit of Carter's Corner. My super dog, I've already talked about it. That would be Mississippi State. They're 14.5-point underdogs to Texas A&M. I think that's going to be a close game. I think it's going to be a fun game. I do think A&M will win, but Mississippi State is going to cover big time. So you said your super dog was Syracuse,
Yep.
right? So Brennan's got Syracuse. I've got Mississippi State. Jake, have you given yours yet? I don't think you have.
I have not, and I like to have, I'm not saying more fun, but when I think super dogs, I think who's going to even take a big point spread and not just cover, fellas, but we're talking win. And this is a special super dog because it's a shout out to the 928, the biggest Northern Arizona Lumberjack fan. They got a big one against Montana State in the Big Sky Conference, and we love all football here on Fan University. University. So let me show some love to Northern Arizona, 8-point underdogs. But you know what? I think not only do they cover against Montana State, they win. Go Lumberjacks.
Just looking at Montana State now, last year they lose the FCS National Championship game. So
Here in Frisco.
Here in Frisco, I was able to go to that game. It was a fun game. They lost to North Dakota State, who wins it pretty much every year. That was, I believe, North Dakota State's 10th win in the FCS title game in 14 years. So the people from North Dakota basically have, winter homes down here, I guess, so they can go watch their team win in Frisco. Although the FCS title game will now be in Nashville for the next several years as FC Dallas is reconstructing their stadium for the future. So that won't be here. But Montana State is only 3-2 on this season. They're the Big Sky. There is one of the, if not the strongest conferences at the FCS level, and just seeing them having dropped 2 games already, that's surprising. So, all right, Jake, I see what you're doing. There. I like that. Okay, but we have one more member of the show. That would be Jacob Ray, our producer, with his white tech jersey on. I hear you have a home dog you want to go with?
I do have a home dog, and I'd like to put this out there. I saw a video of Marcel Reed partying with Suni Lee. I think it was Thursday night, and I was
gymnast?
Yeah, the gymnast. They were partying together, and I was like, you know what? This is smelling like an A&M loss at home. But since you already took them, I'm going to be different. I've got Maryland at home against Washington. The undefeated Maryland Terps. They're a 5.5-point underdog. And I know Jake said he loves a home dog coming off a loss. Well, they're undefeated, but I still like them. Malik Washington's got 10 touchdowns and just 1 interception. I think they get the win today.
Malik Washington has been a dog, but you know about September Maryland, right?
What about September Maryland? Enlighten me.
Since Maryland has joined the Big Ten in September, they've won like 89% of their games, which, it's usually the out-of-conference games, right? So they'll stomp the out-of-conference teams they play. Once October and November starts for Maryland, they stink. They have never been able to figure it out in the Big Ten, so they'll usually win 1 or 2 or 3 games in conference. But it's just so funny. Like Maryland in September is Alabama tier dominant. Maryland in October and November, that's when things get a little rough. So I like it. Washington had a tough game last week. They didn't get in the end zone against Ohio State, and you got the long travel, from Washington to Maryland. So now I'm going to be keeping more of an eye on that game.
Shout out to my guy Jacob Ray mixing in some Big Ten football conversation. That's my guy, Jacob Ray. That's what I'm talking about.
Man, anytime the Big Ten is just mentioned, Jake's smile on his face, it's just crazy.
Yeah, you're in Big 12 country
it's
out
Big
there
12,
now.
Yeah, especially out in Utah, man. You can't be talking the Big Ten in Utah. I like that, though. I don't like my quarterbacks. Can I hit on Marcel Reed for a second?
Yeah.
If my quarterback is out partying 2 days before a game, should that go to the Cabo Fund? Like, that's got to be a fine, right? That's a problem.
That's a great point.
I don't want my quarterbacks being out partying before an SEC game. I think that, to Jacob Ray's point, that spells doom potentially for the Aggies, and you got to be committed, man. That sounds like another Aggie quarterback we know and used to see play back in back in the day.
I was going to say that just sounds like a former Aggie quarterback who won a lot of games when he was at A&M. It worked out for him when he was in college. Past that, I don't know.
He was an anomaly, I think.
Okay.
For sure.
Well, perhaps he's joining the mentorship class that Diego Pavio is joining with Johnny Football.
You can sign up now, too. Jake, we might have to get on that class. I got to see how much it costs.
Yeah, we'll have to see. Maybe it's like the Manning Academy, where you get all the quarterbacks in that, except it's the Manziel Academy.
Yeah,
now.
exactly.
Maybe that's something he's starting now that he's been out of football for a while. But, okay, let's get into a little Carter's Corner. And what I want to get into today, and I want this from everyone, I want us all to own up on our preseason takes. We're about a month into the season. We've seen enough, we're starting conference play, but I think the out-of-conference play and some of the big games we've seen have told us a lot about some of the big teams, some of the teams we expected to be really good, some of the teams we expected to be bad and have seen opposite things from. So where I want to start is with this team right here.
In 3 first downs, back, taking a shot for the end zone. It is caught. It's a touchdown for C.J. Daniels.
I think when the preseason poll came out, Miami was 10th. And I looked at that and I said, that's a team that's going to end the season unranked, because I did not believe in Carson Beck. And I understand why you still might not believe in him because of his last couple games. I did not believe in their defense because it was Swiss cheese last year. And their quarterback last year, Cam Ward, was better than Carson Beck. So I'm just looking at this thinking there's going to be a clear regression. They were 10-3 last year with the bowl game loss. I thought that was about the peak of what Mario Cristobal was going to be able to do. Then they win their opener against Notre Dame. freshman starting his first game, so whatever. But they win that game at the end. Then they just start blowing teams out. They just start dominating teams. And when they beat Florida a couple weeks ago, we talked about how Florida has a good defense, right? Miami wore them down. On the lines of scrimmage, they bullied Florida's defensive line on the offensive line, and they just ran the ball down their throat. When their passing game wasn't working, they found a different way to not just win, but to dominate. And I don't care if Florida's 1-3, whatever their record may be. Dominating an SEC team like that counts for something. So 100%, I thought Miami was going to stink. I thought they were going to end the season unranked, and there's always a top 10 team that ends the season or a preseason top 10 team ends the season unranked. It's not going to be Miami. And at this point, the way they play, if they go into Tallahassee tonight, which is in Florida, as we figured out earlier, and they go beat Florida State, you're looking at potentially number 1 Miami.
Yeah, I feel like Miami would be ranked number 1. Depending on it'd be hard to just give Ohio State up, move them back if they keep winning. But Miami would have some impressive wins with Notre Dame and Florida State if they're able to take care. Okay, so if we're going where we're wrong,
I know you got a big one. You've already kind of talked about it today.
I've already said I'm not alone here, by the way. I'm going to bring some national pundits into my prediction because I was listening to some guys. I'm like, oh, yeah, Clemson. 1-3. They are up 7-0 on North Carolina, though, after a wide receiver 75-yard pass to TJ Moore, I believe. Clemson's up 7-0 early. Maybe they'll make a run, but, man, I had Clemson winning the national championship this year. One thing in college football that I think is interesting that we just tend to overlook is we see players and they're like, oh, they're returning a bunch of people. And we just assume that their development is going to get better. That's not the case in college football. A lot of the times the guys that went 8-4, 9-3 last year might just be the same dudes that went 8-4, 9-3 last year, and they didn't really progress to an 11-1, 12-0 team. I was wrong on Clemson there. The lack of development from Cade Klubnik, these guys that came back thinking they were going to have a top defense have not shown what I thought they would go to. Disappointing for sure for Dabo Swinney and for guys that believed in him like myself, but I was very wrong on the Clemson Tigers in 2025.
And you'll be able to hear Clemson and North Carolina. We will join that game in progress at the top of this hour. So at noon, once we are off the air, we will join the Clemson-North Carolina game here on our airwaves, and you'll be able to listen to a game that I think there was a point where we thought this would be a really fun game, right? And Jake, I throw it to you. We'll get to your, what you want to eat crow on about the season so far, but who would have thought North Carolina would have come into this game against Clemson with more wins? And they only have 2 of them. North Carolina's 2-2. Clemson is 1-3. I mean, what a ugly we were thinking this could have some potential impact in the ACC race. Not so fast, my friend.
Yeah, no doubt. It's another example of the unpredictable nature of college football. The good thing about being wrong about so many things like I am, that there's really, I'm reminded of Mean Girls. The limit does not exist of where I could go with where I was wrong on this one. But, the North Carolina one was a wild card. Nobody really knew what a Bill Belichick collegiate program would look like. And of course, trying to run it like an NFL team and everything of that nature. But yeah, I mean, Clemson is that team that, even for, to bring it back locally with SMU, you kind of circled that one on the calendar for SMU as well. And it's not looking that way. But I want to go back to that opening night game you talked about with Miami, because where I was wrong is the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. I thought that this would be the over the hump year. And it's hard to say, okay, they're in the national championship last year. So, I guess over the hump is a little bit dramatic, but I was so all in on Marcus Freeman as the head coach, this defense that Notre Dame would have. And because CJ Carr, albeit a freshman quarterback, covered him in high school. The pedigree that he had with his grandfather being Lloyd Carr, longtime Michigan coach, I thought he could step into that offense, and really it hasn't been the offense in their losses at all. He has played really well, and of course with Jeremiah Love and all of the weapons that they have, I thought this Notre Dame team would be right back in the college football playoff, ready to build on last year's national runner-up finish to solidifying at least being in the conversation for the national championship. And the risk you take when you're Notre Dame and you refuse to join a conference. So I don't have any sympathy for them by any means, but they've made their bed that they now have to deal with. They have to suffer the consequences of the schedule that they play, to where you're looking and there's not really a quality opponent left on the schedule. The two quality opponents they had, they lost, and albeit in close fashion, but a disappointing season for the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, and I was wrong on them.
But you do mention they have the rest of the season in front of them, and I think the offense is something you can definitely put your hat on if you're Notre Dame, because I think that even goes into Miami. Why I think it's really impressive is Notre Dame's been scoring 40, 50 points a game since that Miami game. They only scored 24 in that one. I think that's another thing that shows you how good Miami's defense is. But their losses were by 3 points and 1 point. So I think you can say, I think you can look at them and, they have the rest of the season to continue to prove themselves. They're ranked 21st going into this week, so we'll continue to see with them. And I don't want to forget Oregon. Not that I was wrong on them, but they are in front of Miami in the poll right now. So Miami's about 100 points behind Ohio State. That could change with the depending on the result of their game tonight. Last thing I'll leave you with in Carter's Corner. Do you know Tennessee's had the same rank in the AP poll for 4 straight weeks?
I did not know that.
So week 3,
win or loss?
Week 3, they lose to Georgia. They're 15th, lose to Georgia, stay at 15, which is fair. It's an overtime loss. They looked like a very good team for most of that game. They beat UAB, stay at 15. They beat Mississippi State in overtime, stay at 15. And these are with teams in front of them losing, teams behind them winning, having more impressive wins or losses, what may have you. I just think it's funny that a team can stay in the exact same spot 3 or 4 straight weeks. And, we'll see with them today. I'm actually not sure if they are playing. They are not. They're off this week. So we could be looking at Tennessee just loving the number 15.
Just sticking right
staying
at the 15
there for another
number.
week.
Well, I can't wait for the controversy when Notre Dame goes 10-2 and they find a way into the 10-11 seed. And someone from the Big 12 or Big 10 that goes 11-1 flips out and doesn't make it. But we'll get to that here in a couple weeks. Around the corner, thanks, Carter, for Carter's unbelievable Carter's Corner. But around the corner coming up, we've got our top 5. Who are the top 5 head coaches in college football today? We'll debate next on The Fan.
Sean and RJ, the KNC Masterpiece, G-Bag Nation, and Fan After Dark. Live and local. Turn it on and leave it on. 105.3 The Fan and our Odyssey, iHeartRadio, and TuneIn apps.
Worried about market losses? If headlines are keeping you up at night, it's time to take control. Hi, I'm Jeff Jr. with Trajan Wealth, and I know you've worked hard to save. But in times like these, what if can turn into what now? If you're planning to retire or are in retirement, you need a strategy that helps protect your future. At Trajan Wealth, you can capture market gains, protect your account from losses, and guarantee
817-333-3333. With Frankel & Frankel, there is never an out-of-pocket cost. They only get paid when you win. Frankel & Frankel, the go-to car and truck break attorneys in Dallas.
It's Fan University on 105.3 The Fan with Jake Riepma and Carter Freeman. I'm Brennan Baxter. Jake, out in Utah, if you aren't watching on the fan cam, one, you should, but two, you're missing a gorgeous scenery behind Jake, man. You got the mountains in the background. It's a real-life picture, too. It's hard to beat. I've enjoyed looking at you all morning, Jake. It's been nice.
Well, I appreciate you saying that, and I should figure out a way to position my camera that where my face is completely off the screen, and instead you just have the beautiful Mayflower Mountain Village here on the other side of the mountain of Park City, and just let it fully be the picturesque postcard that it is. So I'm about 40 minutes outside of Provo, where I was last night for BYU West Virginia and some Big 12 football action, where Bear Bachmeier, great name. You can't wear number 47 and be a quarterback. I just can't get past the eyesore. So I meant to mention that earlier, and I know we've talked a lot of BYU already on Fan University, and I don't mean to hijack another segment. I do that enough, but I meant to get that off my chest that, you know, I don't care if you throw for 10 touchdowns. You can't wear number 47 and be a quarterback.
I love it. I think at some point you can break the mold, and if you're 5-0 and you're out there dominating teams, and BYU hasn't played anyone super incredible yet, but they've looked awesome against the teams they're supposed to look awesome against. And as so long as you're doing that, you can wear whatever number you want. I mean, I don't like in the NFL we've relaxed the numbers, so it's defenders can wear anything like linebackers, they can wear single digits now. That's still weird to me. They should be in like the 50s or the 40s or whatever. For whatever reason, this one, maybe because it's BYU, because it's this very unique place out in the mountains of Utah, something about it just fits. And like you said, cool name. I'm here for the jersey number. Maybe a little lower, though. Would you be fine with like a 21, 22, or does it have to be 19 or lower?
It's less of an eyesore, but I go back to Devin Gardner, who's now a game analyst on Fox, when he wore 98.
Yeah.
And sick brag, shout out, played against him in high school, and he was better in high school than he was in college, that's for sure. And he put on that number 98. It looked silly. He was terrible, and now he's calling games on Fox. That's neither here nor there. I just give me the tradition. If you're a quarterback, it's 1 through 19.
I don't know. The fact that his name is Bear, I feel like he can do whatever he wants.
He's got a brother named Tiger, too.
Like, that's just so cool. I think it's one of the coolest names. Bear Bryant, legendary name. I might name my first son Bear. We'll find out.
Bear Baxter. I kind of like that.
That's a pretty cool name.
Keep the bees going.
That kid would definitely not need Ozempic. That's for sure, Jake. All right, well, let's get to our top 5. Last week we did quarterbacks. If you missed that, go check out the Odyssey Rewind. This week we're doing head coaches. Top 5 head coaches in college football. We're going to go from 5 to 1. Carter, I'll start with you. Who do you feel like is the 5th best coach in college football right now?
I was racking my brain about this last night, but I'm pretty happy with my list. And I don't think we have a lot of big names, but I do think we have a lot of big coaches, or like big voices, I should say, in college football. We have a lot of great coaches. And number 5, who I want to highlight, just Google him. It's Curt Cignetti at Indiana.
I like
what
that.
he's done, and that's another thing I was wrong about. I didn't think Indiana was going to be all that much this year, nothing more than maybe 8-4. I think they're absolutely in the playoff conversation, and a lot of that stems from Curt Cignetti.
I like the SIG at 5. Jake, who you got?
Yeah, I love that pick at number 5. And I like you, Carter and Brennan, I'm just contemplating and pondering so many choices, because narrowing it down to 5 is really, really tough. And I again, let me injure myself, patting myself on the back here, but I actually put some of my disdain for some coaches to the side and have them in my top 5. But the number 5 one, I wanted to grab someone that's kind of, that up and coming, and I need a little bit more sample size to declare them in the top 3. But give me my guy Kenny Dillingham at Arizona State. I think he's embraced the new age of college football, the transfer portal, the NIL, the activate the valley. I mean, like I said, that guy could motivate me to run through a brick wall. If he was selling a ketchup popsicle and I was wearing white gloves, I'd buy it, because when he speaks, I think he just captivates the audience, and that's a big part of being a CEO as a head coach. And not to mention, your first year, you're picked last in the Big 12 and you go and win it. So we need more data. We need more sample size on Kenny Dillingham, but I think the Arizona State Sun Devils struck gold. He's my number 5.
Jake loves Kenny Dillingham. If there's one thing you got to know from this show, it's that Jake and Kenny Dillingham were meant to be.
It was a match made in heaven.
It really was. And Jake, you remind me of him, like very just rah. You've got the personality. You hype people up. You're so infectious with your extrovertedness. Is that a word? Extrovertedness? I don't know.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
We're saying mollywopped on this show, so we can have extrovertedness.
Say what you want here.
Yeah.
So Jake, I love it, man. Good pick. In fact, I debated Kenny Dillingham at 5, but I'm going to go with another Big 12 coach this year. And the reason is because when you bring in a transfer portal like Texas Tech did, you need a guy that can be a CEO. And yes, this is going to sound so homer, but right now in 2025, I think Joey McGuire can slide into that 5th spot with what he's doing with the program at Tech. I'm very, very surprised at how this team has come together with all the new pieces. And I think that's a kudos to Joey. I'm not saying that Joe McGuire is a top 5 college football coach if we're talking the totality. I'm talking in 2025 specifically, 5 games into the year. I like what I've seen from the Red Raider head coach.
I have him,
and a fan of the show.
I have him on the outside looking in, and I did consider him for the top 5 because of everything you said, the job he's done, bringing all of that together. I think it does take that specific kind of person. I think Joey McGuire's absolutely there. Keep proving it. Keep doing it for the rest of the season. He'll be in my top 5 before you know it.
Okay, there you go. So we've got a couple Big 12 coaches there right on the cusp. Let's go to number 4. Carter, who you like?
I'm still going with Kirby Smart at Georgia. I know they're coming off a loss to Alabama, but I'm giving him a ton of credit for what he's built there. I do still think he's a big game coach. We saw them go down huge to Tennessee earlier this season. They come on the road, too, come back and end up winning that game. And they don't lose to Alabama by 30 points. That was a close home loss. And that was their first home loss since 2019. They were on like a 33-game home winning streak. I still think Kirby Smart's great. I still think Georgia's going to be good. So I got Kirby, number 4.
All right, Jake.
You know, if I was assembling a NASCAR team, he'd be my number 1 first pick. I mean, that guy can get his guys at a high speed rate. No, I probably might need to pull back a little bit on that, but I considered Kirby Smart, but I think you have to have some accountability for the way your team conducts themselves. And it drives me crazy with the amount of off the field shenanigans and issues that the Georgia Bulldogs have. And the cherry on top for me with Kirby Smart was when he headbutted a player from Mississippi State, and nobody really made anything of that. But I get it, but this is Jake not putting his biases and hatred aside. So my number 4 pick is a guy that I was so out on a year ago. And so I guess if cancel culture was implemented into college football coaching, I canceled Ryan Day after Ohio State lost to the University of Michigan as 3 touchdown favorites at home. And he looked dumbfounded as his team fought on the field because Michigan tried to plant a flag on field turf, which is just a silly concept. It doesn't work. You can't stick the flag into field turf. It doesn't stay up. And I know I'm taking that very literally here, but Ryan Day went from one of the most unconnected looking coaches to leading his team to a national championship. They went through a gauntlet. I got to give Ryan Day a lot of credit. He's my number 4.
I'm surprised Ryan Day's at 4. I've got him a little bit higher, but we'll see.
I do as well.
Yeah, but
Jake had to make room for Brian Kelly because if he's talking about putting his biases aside, I assume Brian Kelly's number 1 on his list.
Yeah, there's Brian Kelly's going to be at the top of Jake's list for sure. I've got Kirk Cignetti at 4. I love the Sig, man. What he's doing, the huge win against Illinois. Indiana's proving people wrong yet again in 2025. I've got him slotted at 4. I'll go ahead and go number 3, roundtable it. I've got Kirby Smart still at 3. I know Georgia lost to Alabama. They have not looked like the Georgia team of 2022 and 2023. But Kirby Smart has built such a stable program there. They're still doing great with what he's got, more so a lack of talent this year. Those SEC teams are being more affected by the transfer portal more so than other teams because they don't have the depth they used to have. They don't have the 5-star receivers ready to come in and 5-star cornerbacks, so they're a little more thin than they usually are. I still like Georgia and Kirby Smart. They're one of the best coaches in the country. I've got him at 3.
I got a guy at 3 who beat him last year, and we'll see them play again this year, and that's Lane Kiffin.
Okay.
Because, like I said earlier in the show, what Trinidad Chambliss and Ole Miss have been doing has been something I just did not expect for them to be at the top of the SEC, and I think a lot of that comes from Lane Kiffin. There will be a hiccup at some point until there's not, right? Like, just with all Lane Kiffin teams, there's always a hiccup that you don't expect, like they lose to Kentucky last year at home, a bad Kentucky team who won one SEC game that was against Ole Miss. So I still expect something like that to happen now, but I think in today's day and age, 10-2, that's good enough to get you in the playoff, potentially SEC title game. I think Lane Kiffin has found a perfect spot for him at Ole Miss, so I got him at number 3.
This was bound to happen, and I'm glad it did because it shows some of the continuity that this show has between the three of us. But I'm not going to be a broken record, but in hand, I swear by this, he was my number 3 as well for everything you just outlined. Combined with the fact that he's figured out how to reinvent himself, Lane Kiffin has. And the doc did a great job of, this is crazy, documenting that on the Lane Kiffin show on East 60 there. But, again, not to be a broken record and repeat everything you just said, but it is such a great fit. And we always knew the creative offensive prowess that Lane Kiffin had as a play caller. And now to take the next step as a mature CEO that is just so comfortable in his own skin. And that's something you couldn't say about him for a long time. And that's pretty well documented, but I've got Lane Kiffin as the 3rd best coach in all of college football on my list as well.
It's hard to argue that this year for sure. But man, that's crazy to see Lane Kiffin in the top 5, much less the top 3. I'm a little surprised with that. It's not
week to week, right? So it could change, but
and he deserves it right now. I mean, we're talking 2025. Number 2, I've got Ryan Day, still building the class of the Big Ten. Jake, I know it's painful for you, but Ohio State sitting there, still at number 1 in the country. The big win against Texas at home. It's just kind of firing on all cylinders still for Ohio State. No movement there for me. Ryan Day, number 2.
So he's not Man Lanning yet because he's not number 1 on my list. I have Dan Lanning at number 2. Once he moves up to number 1, he'll become Man Lanning. But I mean, there's not a lot more to say about Dan Lanning. The job he's done recruiting, that Oregon has the resources, and Dan Lanning has used them perfectly pretty much since he's been there. The last time they lost a regular season game was in 2023. It was to Washington. I believe that actually the last 2 regular season games Oregon has lost were to Washington. I think it was in 2022 and 2023. They go undefeated in the regular season last year. This year they're undefeated in the regular season again. They get the big win at Penn State last week. Dan Lanning is awesome. He just doesn't have a national title like the guy number 1 on my list does. So I got Dan Lanning at number 2.
Who's number 1?
Ryan Day.
There you go. All right, Jake, who's 2 and 1 for you?
I'm glad we're running out of time, so you guys can't crucify me for this. But sustainability, longevity, I believe.
Yeah, we got to get that right.
You got to put the active career win leader on your list, Kirk Ferentz, the Iowa Hawkeyes.
Number 2? Jake, come on, man.
We got to go
define a good coach. Who's won the most?
I don't want to hear his number 1.
What's number 1, Jake?
It's Dan Lanning, and whatever sugar boogers he might have going on, and whatever he might be doing, maybe at halftime, maybe whatever he's using to maybe stimulate some of his senses and get the guys motivated. But Dan Lanning is the best coach in college football.
Jake loves a safety and a field goal.
Yes.
That's his scoring.
Wow.
That's what Jake loves.
Iowa versus Iowa. That's Jake. All right, I've got Dan Lanning at number 1, 2 with Oregon. Just top of the class right now. What he's building there, Eugene, it's fantastic. So Dan Lanning, consensus number 1, will soon to be, but
I think at some point this season he will be.
He will be number 1 for Carter.
Like we talked about with Ohio State, they are allowing like 8 points a game this year.
Yes, it's fantastic. All right, we'll wrap the show up here at 11:40. You're listening to Fan University on 105.3 The Fan.
Hey, it's Tony at East Dallas Diesel. Around here, trucks are a way of...
And it's back to Fan University on 105.3 The Fan. This upcoming segment is brought to you by Classic Chevrolet. If you're in the market to upgrade your vehicle, get to Classic Chevrolet in Grapevine. Back-to-back #1 Chevy dealership in the world. They've got more new Chevys than anyone, all priced to sell. Silverados, Tahoes, Blazers, Malibus, Equinox, and more. Visit ClassicChevrolet.com. This is Texas. This is Classic Chevrolet. Together, let's drive, relax, and enjoy the difference. Based on new Chevrolet registrations 2023 and 2024.
That's right. It's Fan University. What a great show today that we had. Got to talk to Joey McGuire, Shahan Jayaraja from CBS Sports. A fantastic day. Hope everyone's enjoying your Saturday of college football. We've got Zach Wolchuk joining us. What a surprise guest we get here to close out the show from G-Bag Nation. Zach, how's it going, brother?
It's going fantastic, boys. Just listening to some Fan University, loving the show. I think you guys are getting better and better every week. I'm actually on the way to East Dallas Diesel off Shiloh Road in Dallas right now for stop number 2 of Flagtober. So come on out. I'm going to be there from noon to 2 at East Dallas Diesel. You can get your free G-Bag Nation flag. And then every 30 minutes, they're going to be giving away a $50 Specs gift card. And there is a signed Brandon Aubrey autographed helmet to be given away as well. So you're going to want to come out. It's going to be awesome. Maybe test drive a truck. But make sure you get that G-Bag Nation flag. I can't wait to see everybody out there. I really want to make sure the Tolos come out because I have a fear that people just hate me and nobody's going to show. So please come out and support.
Wooly Bully, you know that is not true. You are one of the stars of the best afternoon show in the DFW area, so don't doubt yourself there. But you know someone who I do doubt a lot is Bill Belichick at North Carolina. I don't know how much of the scores you're looking at right now, but Clemson is currently up 21-3 on North Carolina. This game is still in the first quarter. You'll be able to hear that here on The Fan once we are off the air at noon. But, Wooly Bully, this was a question posed by Jacob Ray during the break. Is Bill Belichick going to make it the entire season in North Carolina this year?
Yes, he absolutely will. Now, will he coach next year? That remains to be seen. I do think he's doing a little bit of he's kind of tarnishing the reputation here.
Yeah.
You know, it's not I didn't think year one was going to be amazing. I mean, he's got a lot that he's got to fix there at Chapel Bill. But goodness gracious, I don't know if we thought it would be this ugly. So it's possible. And the girlfriend stuff, I mean, her on the sideline, like, it's just weird. But I do think, yes, Carter, he's going to make it the whole year. I wanted to ask, Jake, what the hell are you doing putting Kirk Ferentz in your top 2 coaches, Jake?
I am so glad that got brought up because I knew I would need to defend this this kind of master thesis in this declaration. And it's very simple, Zach. And I kind of expected more from you, Wooly Bully. I knew Brennan and Carter in their immature minds wouldn't be able to comprehend the definition of longevity and sustainability.
Longevity.
And kids these days want everything immediately, Zach Wolchuk. They want instant gratification. It's the NIL era. It's portal this, portal that. Oh, life got a little hard. I'm going to run to the next school. Oh, I got a bigger, better offer. I'm going to go to coach a different school. No, Kirk Ferentz has stood the test of time. Now, looking back at it, did I get a little ahead of my skis with the pick number 2? Sure. But he's in my top 5 because how do you define a great coach? How about the coach that's won the most games? I'm not crazy.
Yeah, well, I mean, just put Kirby Smart in there then. The guys that have won national championships. Like, do you think Iowa has any shot at winning a natty? The answer is no. He's no different than a James Franklin. Like, you're right. The resume speaks for itself for Kirk Ferentz. But Iowa is not going to do anything of substantial, legitimate contending. Sure, they can win 8 to 10 games a year. But come on, man. The dude also employed his own son, who was one of the worst offensive coordinators we've ever seen in college football. Nepotism at its finest. If you guys want to put somebody up there like a Lane Kiffin, that's prisoner of the moment, Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss, who you know are also going to lose a game that they shouldn't lose, because that's what Lane Kiffin always does. Where the hell is Eric Morris and the North Texas Mean Green at 5-0, ready to beat the crap out of South Florida on Friday night? We got a shot at the playoff, boys. Come on.
Yeah, where's he?
I was getting to that. I really
was just on the show.
And Carter can back me up here. I was going to give you the floor to plug your Mean Green and ask if, you would skip school like they canceled classes on Friday. Hey, we had Eric Morris on the show. We're all in on the Mean Green.
Damn right. And I wouldn't have even had class anyway. You don't schedule classes on a Friday. The only time I ever did that, I was done by 10 a.m. It was a morning class. I got in, I got out, and then I got hammered. So that's how it goes on a Friday at North Texas. You immediately hit Fry Street. You go to Lucky Lou's. You go to Cool Beans. Get that Adios Mother Bleeper picture. But I think it's awesome what North Texas is doing. We are not thought of as a major football school. We are an art school. So the fact that they're doing this and they're really embracing the football team this year, I think it's awesome. And I really hope they have a big-time turnout at DATCU, which will always be apogee to me.
Well, Zach, we appreciate you, man, hopping on Fan University. It's an honor to get to speak to you for the first time, and for me at least.
Man.
So, we'll be watching UNT. Don't worry, we've got something up our sleeve for next Saturday morning show. Hopefully celebrate a UNT win and a potential playoff opportunity for the Mean Green.
Absolutely. I appreciate it. And I'll be watching your Red Raiders later. My brother-in-law, my wife, proud Red Raider alumni, so we'll have that on fired up. Joey McGuire doing big things as well. He could be in that top 5. Great interview with him earlier, boys.
And tell everyone where you're at one more time.
East Dallas Diesel, right off Shiloh Road in Dallas. I'm about to pull up right now. I'll be there from noon to 2. Come on out. Get that G-Bag Nation flag. Try win a Specs gift card. They're giving away one, $50 every 30 minutes, and that Brandon Aubrey autographed helmet. It's going to be a party.
All right, Zach. Have fun, man.
Will do, boys. Keep up the great work.
That was Zach Wolchuk, man. What a guy!
What a Tolo!
What a Tolo! Yeah, and rightfully so. Calling us out right away, giving it to us. I appreciate it, Jake. You've now questioned my intelligence on the show, and you said I'm on Ozempic.
Questioned his weight.
I'm not going to let this go. What is it? What's getting into the Utah drinking over there, man? What's in the coffee?
What's in the milk?
Out there?
What's in the milk out there?
Let me tell you, I might be, partaking in some of the do as the locals do when you're on the trips.
A soda shop. You're going to the soda shops there in Utah.
The best ice cream float I've ever had was at some pizza joint in Provo. So I will say the ice cream and everything out there, it does hit different because that's all they have.
Speaking of ice cream, that was one of the coolest things that the BYU experience included at LaVell Edwards Stadium was the president of the university handing ice cream out to the West Virginia fans. And I was, in that section, so I benefited from that. But no, in all seriousness, I've been a little all over the map. You guys know I love you guys. And Brennan, I think you're the model of physical physique, so I don't know whether the Ozempic. I'm like the FAMU PA announcer, just got a little over my skis.
Look,
there.
man.
I told him he needs to go run a 10K before the show next week because you didn't ask that about me. I mean, I got my completionist medal here for my 10K that I ran before the show. So Brennan's got the gauntlets on clearly.
If 5'6.5", 5'7" on a good day is the model of physical peakness, man, I'm here for it. Not a lot of people think that, but I'm here for it. Hey, I wanted to shout out some of the Tolos that texted in as we get ready to close our show here. This is from the 469. Love your guys' show. It's great to get settled, watch all the games on a college football Saturday. That's from the 469 in Frisco. Good college football information. So here we go, guys. Informative here on Fan University 105.3 The Fan. Ton of fun. Jake, you're going to be back in Dallas next Saturday. We missed you here in studio.
Yes, I will be returning home to the beautiful DFW Metroplex, and we'll continue to keep it rolling here on Fan University.
It's going to be a crazy week for Carter. We've got Red River coming in next Saturday. Going to be epic.
It's a good thing that this year the game is a 2:30 kick because for the final hour of the show, you would not have my attention if it was an 11 a.m. kick.
We would not hear Carter.
You would not hear me. You would see hair falling out. The Red River game, as an OU fan, is the one time of the year. It's just I can't watch it like I can a normal game. If OU was to lose, and look, they've lost a lot of games lately, it's one thing to lose to Missouri on the road. It's one thing to lose to South Carolina at home. Losing that game to Texas is so frustrating because you always throw the records out. You throw the ranking out. It's just always, it should be an entertaining game. In the last couple of years, OU has not held up their end of the bargain. This year, I think it's going to be a lot different. We'll see if John Mateer plays. They've got a tune-up game against Kent State today. You'll see the backup, Michael Hawkins, in playing at quarterback instead. But that game is just always so stressful. It always takes win or lose, it takes 5 years off my life. The 2017, I watched the game at the fair, so not at the game, but at the fair. With it was 70% Texas fans, 30% OU fans. I think I lost 10 years of my life on that day. And we won that game. And it was that stressful.
You get to celebrate the lack of the 10 years you get later on. But are you going to be going to the game, Carter?
I will not. I have some pre-planned festivities that game, but I will be watching it. So my friends and I who live in Dallas, who all went to OU, will get together and watch it.
Awesome, man. Can't wait for that. It's going to be an epic weekend of college football. We are here every Saturday morning on Fan University, 9 to noon with you. Thank you to everyone that tuned in. Enjoy your Saturday. Thanks to Jacob Ray watching football with us and producing the show, making sure we're all on air, and to Jake Rietma here in Utah, man. Looking good. The mountains in the background. What a great weekend. Can't wait for next Saturday. Red River.
We'll all be in studio together for the first time in a month.
Together for the first time in forever. I'm going to be driving straight to Lubbock after the show to catch the Texas Tech-Kansas game at 6:30 next Saturday night. It's going to be a big party. We appreciate you guys tuning in to Fan University on 105.3 The Fan.
Tolo means turn it on and leave it on.